It's the penultimate round of the HRSC Open Wheel Racing Championship. My name is Stephen Koenig. Joining me in the commentary box, we have got Saga, Bakshi, and on the cameras, our historic cameraman himself, Christian Deploy. And I'm super excited here at Mosport for round 9, and it's going to be a fast-flowing circuit that can make or break championship, Saga. I can't wait to see who's going to be the 2025 champion, who is decided today in this race.
It will be decided during this race, or at least the championship will get closer to being decided this race, with Nicholas Christian in first place right now, with Bert Knops in second. It'll be very close at the top end of the spear right now. 43 points to 39 points, then 37, and then 28. It's anybody's ball game going into the penultimate race.
And it's going to be an exciting one, and honestly, really looking forward to it. But that being said, we have had qualifying underway, getting themselves sorted out. But let's start taking a look over to our calendar, considering we did say this is the penultimate round. This is round 9 out of 10 rounds for 2025, and it's make or break. We are currently enjoying ourselves the Canadian weather, which is working out rather well for our drivers. But round 10 is going back to the United States to see who can claim the victory for our Formula A and also our Formula B, which will be going on separately on a different day. It's going to be going on tomorrow. They also in for some fun as well in the world of Italy before rounding out at the Nürburgring, the German Grand Prix of Hamburg in Germany. That being said, we're looking forward to it. And let's take a look at our championship points before we get underway with all the racing. So before we go to that, we talked about Mosport. Saga, over to you.
Track length of 2.45 miles or 3.95 kilometers. It's been founded since 1961 and has been unchanged since its creation. We've got 10 corners, 7 to the right, 3 to the left, with 38 meters or 125 feet of elevation change. We're in Bromanville, Ontario, Canada, and CTMP hosted the first ever Canadian Formula One Grand Prix, and you guessed it, 1967, making this historic venue in Canada even more special for this championship. CTMP hosts regular multi-class endurance racing events to this day, including IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, historic events from the Can-Am and World Sports Car Championship eras. The track is co-owned by Canadian racing legend Ron Fellows, a multi-Le Mans class winner and former NASCAR driver.
With that all being said, we're going to walk away from the world of sports cars and take a look at our single-seater racing, as Nicholas Christian currently leads the top of the pack with 43 points, narrowly keeping the lead ahead of Bert Knops. Jürgen Simonik holds on to third place along with Casper Stoltz. Devin Brain currently sitting in 5th place. 6th is Martin Bayer, followed by Farnik Godricki in the beautiful 18 points. Nicholas Hilbrand, after having a little bit of a difficult time, sits in 8th. 9th is Danny Vorman, and 10th is Maddie Shepherd on 14 points. So close, up and down through the field. But that being said, let's take a look at what our constructors are sitting at. Teams, apologies.
In the team standings, it's Bravo Motorsports rocking P1 right now, and then Rafa Racing Club in P2. It's awfully close for P3, with Amber Autosports in 3rd with 61 points. Scuderia Fevero in 4th place with 39 points. Amici Autosport Hooper with 20 points in 5th. Ikuri Australis with 16 points in 6th. Vulcan Racing in 7th. The Bakersville Hobbyist Racing in 8th. Automex in 9th. Southern Speed Factory in 10th.
And with it being the 1967s, it's open to all our constructors, and we've got 8 of them, with Beagle currently leading out the pack on 73 points. Grabham sitting with 58. Scarini sitting with 46. Cooper sitting on 37 points, followed by GBR with 24. EVE sitting in 18 with 18 points. At 7th place is Yonda on 15 points, and Brutus sitting on 13 points. To round out our constructors of 3-liter, multiple different displacement motors, and a steel tubing frame all around you. It is the height of motorsport. But with that being said, our final round is going to be leading up for our Formula A's. But this is going to be an interesting race. And Saga, over to you.
Up next, we have the Formula A. We're running 90 laps around Mosport, of course, and they're in for a world of a time with these very, very historic but also very fast cars around this track, upwards of close to 300 kph running around Mosport. Coming down the Mario Andretti straightaway, that'll be turn 6 and turn 7. Little kinks in the road there, but we still call it a straightaway named after one of the iconic drivers, Mario Andretti, of course. We have corners like Sterling Moss or Moss Corner, turn 5A and 5B. And it's going to be pretty amazing to see these cars undulate or manage the undulation going up the hill, plummeting down through turn 4, up the hill for turn 5, coming around the corner for 5B, and plummeting back down for 5C. Down the straightaway we go, upwards of 300 kph and into the S's at full Mach speed.
And with that being said, we're getting ready as qualifying has been concluded. It's McClaren that is hoping to try and move his way forward and will be losing out, unfortunately, on this one, as it's Bert Knops who leads out, followed by Nicholas Hildebrand in second place. Third place is Nicholas Kersen and Mick Claridge in fourth. A little bit further down, Martin Bayer in fifth, followed by Austin Birchfield, Ray's Gardner, and Darren Andrews, rounding out 8 of our drivers fighting here on a very difficult and fast circuit and some amazing machinery. All to play for in the points, and I've got to say, we're in for a rather great treat. And in true historic fashion, in true single-seater fashion, these drivers will be getting off the line with these cars from a standing start. It's all about throttle control, clutch control, getting the revs right, bring it up to about 4,500 RPM, wait for the flag, and then get going. If you get wheel spin, you're dead in the water before you even tried.
It's going to be grueling. It's going to be challenging, not only getting off the line, but going through turn 1 and coming down the big massive hill that is turn 2 and 2A. That's Clayton Corner, of course, and into Quebec. Following that will be turn 4, turn 5 as Moss Corner down the Mario Andretti straightaway, plummeting through the S's as fast as you possibly can for getting set up for White's Corner. Man, this is a fast and flowy circuit, and these cars have no electronic aids to give any sort of assistance to these drivers. It's going to be a test of man and machine today.
With also a lot of suspension travel on the cards, these cars will be rather tricky to deal with. Their tires are also very different from the slicks that we know of nowadays. They're closer to your normal road treaded tires that you use on your normal road cars. That makes them a little bit more fun, but they are very wide, so they do have a lot of room to play with to rock and roll. As we head down to the field and lights are on, Bert Knops will be looking to get the jump. Nicholas Hildebrand running in second place, hopes to try and keep up the fight, and we got Nicholas Kirsten, who is sitting in third place, who needs to get a victory here today ahead of Bert to go and lead out the championship into the final round. And that being said, McClaren is also ready to have some fun after some difficult racing throughout the season. As we all get lined up, you'll see cars engaging first gear, waiting for the lights, and they'll start to bring the revs up nice and gently. This is a full-length Grand Prix, 90 laps for each of the drivers to contend with. And all eyes to the front row as we hear the toots. Lights are ready, and away we go. A bad start for Bert, and Nicholas gets the jump around the outside, hoping to get the launch through the turn 1, and just loses out that little bit of drive. Bert Knops now looks to challenge as they charge their way through into 2. Hard on the brakes, just to try and swing the noses through. And it does look like Nicholas Hilbrand off to a phenomenal start. Great launch off the line, but Bird hoping to stay in the mix.
Absolutely phenomenal move outside line through turn 1, but carried the speed down the hill through turn number 2, and that will be Hilbrand out in the lead of this race in front of Knops. Kirsten getting chased down by Birchfield out in the battle for 3rd and 4th position. It's looking pretty good and clean for this opening lap, and now we might have a little bit of contact there from nose to rear wheel, but these cars are very apt at keeping the rubber to the road right now. And now we're going to the Mario Andretti straightaway for the first time of asking here tonight. 90 more left to go, folks.
As they got the slight rise on the circuit, you can see how much suspension travels there as it's a big slide for Austin Birchfield, trying to just keep the car in check. A little touch on the brakes has got him all over the show as he tries to get a little bit of heat into these tires and get a little bit closer to Nicholas ahead of him, who holds on to 3rd place. He's got to keep an eye on the mirrors as Mick Claridge holds on for 4th place. The field not too far spread out on the first lap, but this is a high-speed circuit where you have to keep your foot on the gas for majority of the time. You really need to keep positive pressure on the rear diff of these cars just to make it corner and let the rear control the way to get in and out through the corners. Otherwise, you're going to face a huge amount of understeer. And take a look at this. Nicholas Hilbrand just keeping a little bit of distance from Birkenhoffs at the moment, who just follows through. It's 90 laps to contend with, and for Bert at the moment, he's picking up a tow that can carry him through. And with that being said, saving the precious amount of fuel. It might be milliliters, but it might be just enough to carry you through to the end and avoid a very long, lengthy pit stop.
It is a very long pit stop here at CTMP, basically all the way from the end of the S's into the entrance of turn number 2, basically. And that could really be detrimental to anybody's race towards the end if Hilbrand, will be able to fuel save just a little bit there. He will be able to make it to the end. I was interested in the pit stop strategies as well. If these historic vehicles were going to be able to make it the full 90 laps of running without doing any pit stops, but it's looking like they might be under 90-second laps here. New best lap time, a 124.4 that last time around of asking. They're doing a pretty good job of keeping it calm, cool, and collected, but the battle at the front is getting awfully spicy.
It's getting wild, it's getting amazing, and the Scuderia Father team will be keeping a close eye as Nicholas holds a very defensive inside line, lost a little bit of momentum, and now just trying to snap the toe. Bert hangs on, waits for the opportunity, just sitting in the mirrors, leaning onto that right-hand side, making the driver guess where he might put the nose in. But take a look how close the two are to one another, nose to gearbox, as they fight their way through. It's all about lining it up. Plus, these cars have crash gearboxes. In other words, get the revs right, you can just throw it straight into gear. Otherwise, it's heel and toe, in and out of the corners to carry the momentum through, and you've got to balance yourself on throttle and brake. That's where having that little bit of knowledge of heel and toe will help you out, and a little bit of left foot braking can also get you carrying your way up through the order. Majority of the drivers utilizing a dogleg gearbox that they've programmed or an H pattern to keep them going.
Very, very interesting facts there about the drivers and what type of setups they have. Of course, I'm running the floppy paddle, so this would not suit me whatsoever. That's why you'll never find me in a historic car or in an MX-5 or older MX-5 with an H-pattern gearbox at the very least. Thank God for sequential gearboxes. Speaking of that, Knops almost runs into the back of Hilbrand's here coming through turn number 3, but narrowly avoids doing so by going a little bit deep and wide on an alternate line. And this battle up at the front, the tip of the spear, the sharp of the knife, is getting a little bit spicier than I think I would like it to be, with over 86 laps of running just left. These guys are driving like they've only got 5 left.
Well, currently with Birkenhops utilizing that BT20, hopes to try and get a little bit closer to the front. It actually has a 2.8 litre engine in it, so it's a little bit on the smaller side compared to the competition. Straight line not in his favor. However, the car is a little bit better through the corners, and you can see how he's more comfortable to just try and push a little bit harder through the corners, a lot less pointy compared to the Scuderia ahead of him. So this is going to be his opportunity to really keep the pressure on and wait for an opportunity to present itself without getting hurt. But take a look, new best lap time is not done by first and second, not even third. It is Birchfield going and putting in the fastest lap time of the race with a 1:24.4 in this run. So clear air keeps in the toe is helping him out, but Knopf's off circuit trying to fight for it around the outside, not having an easy time. Nicholas Hilbrand will continue to try and hold his line.
Amazing stuff coming through turn 2 and turn 3. Knops really doing his work right now, trying to find his way around Hilbrand anywhere he possibly can look, sticking his nose alongside the inside, the outside, every which way he looks. But you're absolutely right, looking at him coming down the Mario Andretti straightaway, he's just not quite as fast as the Scuderia out in front right now. It is just pulling on him down the Mario Andretti straightaway, and through the corners is really where the Bravo Motorsport team has to do the work to close down the gap in front. You see it approach 0.3 of a second, but it's obviously much closer than that once we get down to turn 3.
It's going to be a hard-fought round as the drivers continue to figure it out. Now, I do want to point out here, Birkenhoff has taken 2 victories this season, so a victory here today will help him out in the championship to jump the likes of Nicholas Kirsten, who is currently sitting down in 3rd place, and he is in a huge bit of pressure from Austin Birchfield, who's been keeping that solid drive behind him. Nicholas is sitting with that top time of a 1:24.3. He's able to get the fastest lap time of the race, however, losing out the time. But here comes Birkenhoff once again, fighting from second, a dab of the brakes, just tries to keep himself going. See how the nose dives on forward as they run a 60-40 brake bias on these cars, trying to get the rear to rotate around those huge tires on the back to just get them all sorted out and carry the momentum.
Just absolutely crazy how much faster that Scuderia is compared to the Bravo Motorsports car. You could see the gap just becoming ever so long coming down the Mario Andretti straightaway. It baffles me every single time, but Bert Knops is looking so good throughout these corners. He's balancing it on the nose, pitch perfectly, like you said, using the brakes to rotate that fat rear end around just the way I like it. And Nicholas Kirsten, though, is actually doing a great job in 3rd place. He's actually not losing touch with the drivers out in 1st and 2nd place right now, but he is under threat from Birchfield from behind, who put down one of the fastest laps earlier on in this stint, now in 4th place, still running pretty well, staying within spitting distance of his opponent out in 3rd.
And a little bit of uncertainty just to keep the car in check as Birkenhoff's starting to feel the pressure. Not too much of an error wash coming off the back of these cars, but he wants to get the momentum, looked to go side by side, but just didn't have the top end to work out in his favor. This circuit favors a longer gear ratio to get yourself going around. You don't want to have a shorter box here, so a lot of work needs to be done. But we are getting a bit of word that Ray's Gardner into pit lane, so something's gone on with him, and will be losing out a lot of time during the course of this race as he drops down to the bottom of the order. But our top 4 still keeping nose to tail with one another, with no room for error. If you think about this, we got Nicholas Hilbrand, who is in for the long shot. He is continuing to fight out for 1st place, but yet lies a little bit further down in the championship. He is lying 8th in the championship. No victories during the course of the season. 4 races he was not able to score any points, from Netherlands, Belgium, all the way from the UK, and to round 7 he landed up losing out a bit of time as well. He's got 16 points. It's 2 points off the likes of Phonic Godrecki. So getting 11 points here is what he needs to have. For Bert, it's crucial. A victory has to be on the cards to keep the championship well enough in his favor.
Bert going for a switchback through turn 3, gets his nose chopped off, leading down and towards corner number 4. Up the hill we go for corner number 5, Moss Corner, or as I like to call it, the Canadian Oak Tree, because it's got that uphill right-hander, and it's got another right-hander right after that, and there's almost an oak tree sitting right there. You guys know what I'm talking about. It's a Canadian Oak Tree, basically, from VIR. But now, losing out touch with the Scuderia out in front, the Bravo Motorsports car, Bert Knops, still doing a phenomenal job of trying to challenge Hilbrand for the lead of this event. More importantly, not letting him run away with the lead that he is pulling right now, keeping him honest, keeping him on his toes, and making sure that he has someone to battle with. This is allowing Kirsten from behind the opportunity to stay within that spitting distance. He is around 1 second back right now, too far away to catch any advantage from the slipstream, but he is close enough to still be getting that red blood in his veins pumping and challenging, knowing that this podium is something to fight for. P1 and P2 are still in the cards for him as well.
But I've got to ask a very serious question here as I'm watching Birkenhoff's really throwing the car through the corners. Is he starting to overdrive the car, start to wear those tires out, getting a little bit too hot as he tries around the outside, getting onto the long straightaway? Is he going to have the run here? Tries to go for a little bit of a defense. Unfortunately, not going to be an easy time as he holds the inside through the left-hander into the double right at Moss. And Birkenhoff finally takes over the lead of the race. The question is, for how long as Nicholas Hilbrand looks to try and utilize that straight line horsepower he has under his right foot versus Bert cornering to make it work out in his favor.
I don't think this lead is going to last very long. This lap or one more is all it's going to take. And there it is. Hilbrand challenging, coming through corner 9 right now, going the long way around the outside, but the outside turns into the inside for the following corner, setting up for the final corner. We're going to go completely side by side, but Hilbrand goes for a switchback, mounts the curbs, unsettles the vehicle, and that will be the number 6 going a little bit further back.
As it dips down, that undercarriage catches the curb. It becomes a little bit more of a challenge to keep it in check. And it is Bravo Motorsport currently leading out. Nicholas holds on to that second place. But take a look at the distance between third and fourth as they start to catch up to the fighting duo ahead of them. Maybe just pushing a little too hard has allowed the likes of Nicholas Kirstein for the Amber Collective Autosport team and Austin Birchfield from the Southern Speed Factory to close that distance and become a viable threat.
And we've got a replay of what happened to Gardner coming up here in just a few minutes. This is the driver that entered pit lane coming through corner number 1. He's looking like he's tentative to get on the throttle, mounting the curb just a little bit too much there, and that'll send him straight into the wall. And that's what happened to Reese Gardner there.
And that is the suspension absolutely hammered. And unfortunately, a lot of work needed on that car to really go and try and pivot him back into the race. But as we rejoin the fights in for it, going into lap 11, Nicholas Hildebrand out into the lead. Only just at the moment as Birkenhoff tries to go for the inside line. Nicholas, it's a fast lap time of the race. Not by much though with that 124.0. And Birkenhoff's all over the back of him like a bad rash at the moment. And Austin Birchfield trying to close up the distance to Nicholas Kirstein. Now, the big thing that comes here, if Birkenhoff stays in second place and Nicholas stays in third, they still will be a bit close in the championship points. They have to have a car in between them to give the advantage to one or the other. And this is where it starts to become a little bit of a thinking game of working with your competitor to try and open that distance a little bit more, give yourself a bit of breathing room, and then going back onto the attack. As we take a look at our replay on the top right, and here comes Nicholas Hilbrand, and that straight line absolutely going and showing what he can do. Bert, unfortunately, couldn't quite fight back in the BT20 will have to sit down, wait, and look for his next opportunity. But for Bert, this must be quite frustrating not to have the top end speed that he needs to stay ahead of the pack.
Absolutely. If it's apparent to us, it's definitely apparent to the driver, knowing what his weakness is, but also recognizing where his strength lies. And I think he's trying to use that to his advantage, challenging in some of these high-speed corners through corner number 1, 2, and 3, where it really does matter. Difficult to pass at corner number 4 unless you set it up from 3, and extremely difficult to pass at 5 unless you're looking for a little bit of contact there at Moss Corner. But now all the drivers getting a little drifty through corner number 2, it looks like, as they get a little bit saucy. Bert Knops, though, looking to challenge around the outside yet again, keeping Hilbrand honest on that inside line as much as possible. But Hilbrand covers off in a defensive manner, coming through corner number 3 is exit, and now through 4, it looks like we're going to go single file line is the order of the day. Up the hill through Moss, an undulation here through the Canadian oak tree, and plummeting back down through 5B, and then now the Mario Andretti straightaway. This is where that Scuderia is really just going to stretch its legs and pull away from the Brabham Motorsports car.
It's going to be an interesting time for Bert as he tries to hang on as much as possible. And to think about it, these cars weigh 500 kilograms. You've got no ABS, you've got no traction control, no power steering. You're having to fight your way through, and it is transitioned into the sim as well of how difficult these cars are to drive. If you had to think about this, Ega, we're sitting with cars that vary from 2.2, 2.8 litre inline full-cylinder engines all the way to V8s, V12s, varying from 250 horsepower to 420 horsepower in the Formula A series. And you have to manage all of that for 90 laps around Mosport, a circuit synonymous to the world of sim racing as an incredibly difficult circuit to try and get past your competitor, because once you go off that racing line, you're so close to touching the dirt.
Absolutely. The walls are ever closer to the dirt than ever before. Of course, CTMP Mosport having to be resurfaced in 2001, but keeping the racing line original as much as possible, as you can see here by the bitumen that is laid out in front of you. And you can see that little strip of asphalt through turn 5 that has been untouched and unpaved since its inception, basically in 1961.
Absolutely incredible, and it's good to see drivers having a bit of fun. Race Gardner back out on circuit for the Curie Australia's team. Good to see him back out there. You know what? For a car that hit the wall, the driver would be kicking oneself. But I gotta take my hat off to those that continue. Even when the chips are down, you've gotten to the table, you've lost all, and even you have the casino telling you to get out the door, you still press on. And Race Gardner, I've got to say, so far, it takes a tip of the hat for the entirety of the field and more for sticking it out. Despite being laps down, a finish here today is good points for him to climb out of 21st position and move his way up, as we got the fight back on for first place. Bert Knops trying to go around the outside. Nicholas Hilbrand holds the inside line, and flat on the gas they go. And you can see both squirreling underneath, trying to keep these cars in check. No room between them, and front wheel into the gap between. That is not what you want to do with single seaters, but both drivers having so much trust in each other's skill. Interlocking wheels is definitely a difficult one to do, and is the fear of every driver in the world.
Absolutely phenomenal racing here today between these drivers up at the front of the grid, interlocking wheels and challenging for that first place position. Bert Knops knows that he has to do anything he possibly can to get alongside Nicholas Hilbrand before we get to the Mario Andretti straightaway, unless he wants to give it back up at the end of that straight and in towards turn 9 and 10. But he can challenge throughout these fast and flowy corners, and he's really good on the throttle application as well. We saw that coming out of turn number 3 leading in towards 4. He set up the move for turn 5 so far in advance. The man is not just going for a lick of the stamps and common sense. He's going for calculated, risky maneuvers here. And it's only risky because these cars are absolutely volatile when you get on the loud pedal.
It's absolutely incredible. And I want to say, Birkenhoff has obviously done quite a bit of with his gear ratios from second and third gear, working on his favor. From fourth and fifth, that plays into Nicholas Hildebrand's favor, where he's got those two a little bit longer to play with, where Birkenhoff has them a little bit shorter to try and get that snappy acceleration out, and just not quite having the momentum to carry down the straight. It's interesting to see the driver setups coming in, but it also comes into how the drivers prefer to get these cars working with them. Some of them want more of a snappier car. They want to be able to get on that loud pedal and really accelerate as hard as they can. For others, they want a bit of a laxy exit and then focus on that top end. And this is where it comes into play. You start working out your gear ratios with these cars. It's not just a standard stack, a short stack, or a tall stack. You physically have to look at the numbers between each of the ratios to get it right, get your RPMs right, and move forward. And also, these cars don't have rev protection. In other words, if you go too beyond your revs, you can land up having a valve, kiss a piston, and you can kiss your race goodbye.
Absolutely crazy that the drivers can just destroy their engines with a flick of their foot coming down the Mario Andretti straightaway. But you're absolutely right about the throttle application as well, getting onto it as gently as possible. Wowza, there is a big moment for Mick as he was getting onto the grass, or excuse me, that wasn't Mick, that was Birchfield having a big kiss of the grass. And there it is, the move done and dusted, it looks like. And Cartridge able to go through on him as Birchfield just got a little bit unsettled coming on the exit of turn 3, almost a straightaway there, but dipped the wheel off into the grass and really unsettled his car and his rhythm coming in towards turn 5. Cartridge now in 4th position. Now that battle has settled. Claridge, excuse me, has settled things down now.
Well, Mick Claridge, coming off last race, he actually had a screen freeze and couldn't quite see how it all went, and landed up going and hammering the wall in, well, to quote your words off mic, historic fashion. He's hoping that all technical difficulties are aside, but he's also a driver that isn't too unfamiliar with these type of cars across different sims, so it's wonderful to have him out there. Being a former champion in iRacing in the Lotus 49s and races in Lotus 79s, he's here with the Open Wheel Racing Championship for the HRSC as they push on. This is in R Factor 2. So having the ability to jump between different sims, which many of these drivers that you get to see bounce between 2 to 3 sims in 1 week, is just so impressive. As we go back to the lead of the race, Birkenhoff's nearly got the run out of the corner, and Nicholas says, no thank you, I've got the little bit of legs, and there's the stretch coming into play. And if you want to talk about the most frustrating thing in the world, be a driver that doesn't have the top end, knowing that you got the drive out of the corner, and soon as you see the dreaded straight, you start to mutter words underneath that helmet and start to get a little bit more irritated each and every time. And considering the open face helmets, as he tries to look for the inside line into one, can he just trail brake, coming off the brake a little bit more, getting onto the throttle, gets unsettled over the curve and just had to lift a little bit more. It is now 3rd gear all the way through. This long left-hander understeer creeps in and he loses out the drive. Nicholas stays alive yet a bit longer.
Ah, man, this is absolutely grueling for Knops right now as he challenges for that first place. My heart goes out to him for not having that top speed, but I bet he's saying under his helmet right now, that's all you got. That's all you got is top speed, huh? I got you in the corners for sure, as he sticks his nose to the gearbox of Hildebrand out in front of him right now. But man, that gap is going to just turn into a mile by the end of the Mario Andretti straightaway, and there's nothing he can do to retort that statement.
No, you just take a deep breath of the exhaust fumes coming out of the car, and just focus on what you need to do heading into the race. There's always a corner before the finish line, and that is going to play into Birkenhoff's favor. But take a look at the movement on brakes and throttle for Nicholas Hilbrand, as he actually has to brake a lot harder to try and slow the car down versus the likes of Birkenhoff's. And this is an interesting tell on how they set these cars up. That for Nicholas, he really needs to tramp those anchors, get the car slowed down, go for the corner, and stand back on the gas, is making life a little bit more difficult for him to try and cope with a bit of understeer that may creep in. For Birkenhoff's, on the other hand, he's far more settled, and he can come off the brakes a little bit easier through the corners without unsettling the car. He tries to go around the outside. It's going to be a lot of hard work through the right-hander, and he's going to have the advantage into the left-hander. If he can just keep his nose there, he's side by side, down a short straight, on the outside, into Moss. Tries to look for an undercut, had to back off as Nicholas slowed it down on the apex and just absolutely kills the drive for Birkenhoff's.
Phenomenal stuff here at HRSC. These drivers may be small in their grid size, but the action sure is packed this evening, and this is a great time. Nowhere else I'd rather be on my Saturday morning than watching some beautiful historic racing around such an iconic track that is named CTMP, or Mosport for short. It is amazing to watch these cars go around, and the drivers got to be feeling it in their shoulder blades. A little bit of tension now as we approach lap 20 of 90.
That's absolutely great racing all the way through. Everyone trying to figure out what can they do, but the pressure still remains on Birkenhoff's and Mick Claridge at the moment, likes of Nicolas Kirstein, who are fighting for the championship. Bear in mind, it's 11 points for first place. Both drivers need a victory here today. For the likes of Nicholas Hilbrand, he's running in 8th. Any points in the podium spots is happy days for him. And for Mick Claridge, well, just finishing is great stuff just to carry him across the line, as he needs to keep going. I mean, this is great racing, back and forth. Everyone trying to figure out what is the game plan here. Hilbrand just keeps an eye on those mirrors and sees where Birkenhoff is at the moment. You can just see how quickly he starts to open up that gas until they start braking. And that's the telltale sign of how the cars have been set up to make them work just for them. Birkenhoff can take a lot tighter line with easier cornering, dabs the brakes, and then gets right onto that throttle as quick as possible. You can see a quick stab, the nose goes down, back up, and flooring it as it tries to get as much drive all the way through, but also rather patient, not wanting to force a pass just as yet. He's going to see where he can get his nose in and doesn't want to just go for that lick and send.
And I think that's one of the more impressive things about this grid of drivers so far, is that we haven't seen any real sends, but here is one up the inside at corner number 3, and they are going to touch wheel to wheel. That'll send Hilbrand a little saucy for his way, but he's going to have the inside line leading down towards corner number 4, and Gnops backs out of it, coming down in towards 4. Maybe felt a little bit of remorse there for the contact, but all drivers at the front still running pretty well right now, and no damage to be found on either of these vehicles. It's important to note that we do have a 7-second, nearly 6.9-second gap to Nicholas Kirsten in 3rd place. That gap has just become insurmountable for the driver in 3rd place. There's no way he can catch back up, barring any mistakes. Mick Claridge. We'll get it right eventually. This is more challenging than Patokis the other day. But Mick Claridge running in 4th place currently. The number 28 doing a great job of staying within that spitting distance of Nicholas out in 3rd. And challenging for that position will be a lot harder than catching up to the rear end.
I'm going to just go and talk about these cars because they steel frames. They're not carbon fiber. They got a fiberglass body on top of them. And for the drivers back in the day, it was risky. The death of drivers, especially with crashes, are huge in the way of going it. They've got the double arm wishbones, as we've seen, taken a bit of a hit with Ray's Gardner. But one thing that's more impressive with these 5-speed Hewlin gearboxes is they crash boxes. In other words, a gentle lift and you can just chuck it through the gears. In the rules, it states no auto clutch can be used, no auto blips or anything like that. So it's always interesting to see how the drivers have adapted their racing style to make it work for them. McLaren's going in, doing a bit of felt farming. We do know that a lot of these cars are going and getting used to being in the weeds when they get left behind by time. However, for Mick, he does not want to get a bit of dirt on these tires, otherwise it is a pain to scrub off, and you can lose up to 1.5 seconds just trying to keep it all on track.
It's impressive to think how these simulators have come so far in their development to where you can pick up dirt on your tires and have to scrub them off. Even some platforms having dirt come onto the racetrack as well these days. But scrubbing your tires of that dirty stuff is very, very impressive to get the physics dialed in just right. Makes the drivers have to be a little bit more apt to keeping it on the black tarmac, or the bitumen, as they would say on the west of Europe. Now, looking at the battle for P1 and P2, we were looking at the battle between P3 and P4 just a moment ago, but this one is definitely spicing up to be something for the remaining couple of laps that we have in this stint, and a big moment for Bert Knops as he comes through Moss Corner, and he's just trying to push as hard as he can. One thing that we talked about earlier that I want to just reiterate is the tire wear. Are the drivers in P1 and P2 potentially overdriving their vehicles? We've obviously seen Bert really push that car, get it a little bit sideways. Will it make the full 90 laps without having to come in for a pit stop for a new change of rubbers or not? Now looking at the battle for P3 and P4 between Claridge and Kirsten, excuse me. And it is getting a little bit closer out on the tarmac right now. We saw that gap come down to around under 0.2 of a second, but a couple of wheels dipped off into the grass, really slowed down Claridge's time, and he's now going to do all that work over again.
Each of them trying to figure out. And one thing about these tires for back in the day, they don't have much in terms of scrubbing. You tend to last a lot longer on a single set versus our more modern day counterparts. They're a lot harder in their tire compounds. However, that being said, they do generate a lot of heat underneath them. So as they're pushing harder and harder, the grip starts to fade away. And it's not just going as a simple fade of, maybe I'm not quite getting it through the corner here. It's the equivalent of you've got grip, and then it just drops off a cliff at a 90-degree angle. And when you're sliding these cars around already, when you're at the best of it, you really don't want to have it just fall out from underneath you. It takes away that confidence that you should be having in your drive. However, you start to run into a little bit of a difficult situation. But I do want to point out, for Nicholas Hilbrand at the moment, who's charging around, he's utilizing a 3-valve V12 with 390 horsepower underneath him, compared to the Grabham that is behind him, that sits in with a 2.8 liter 4-cylinder engine. It just doesn't quite have the same horsepower, 265. So he's utilized the cornering, but as soon as he makes his way through, there's no replacement for displacement, and that is shown every step of the way as that V12 just stands on the gas and opens up the legs. It's just incredible to take your hat off to the drivers at the moment for like Bert Knops and for Nicholas Hilbrand. However, in the distance, they're going to be having a little bit of traffic coming their way with Mr. Gardner, seeing these two fighting duo who are charging on for first place to work their way around him.
Lap traffic giveth, lap traffic taketh away, depending on where they catch Gardner. Out in the number 22, resting his head in 8th position right now. Hats off to that driver for getting back onto the racetrack and doing his darndest to get home a good haul of points. Let's talk about that top speed one more time that we were just discussing. Top speed for Hilbrand is going to be 280 kilometers per hour. Top speed for Burton Ops is going to be 271. That's a full 9 kilometers per hour down the straightaway. That's including the slipstream that he's been getting from Hilbrand out in P1. And that has just got to be gut-wrenching to know that he can do nothing to change that number right now. The setup is the setup. The car is the car. The pick was the pick. And that's all he can do about it now. But getting close to the gearbox of Hilbrand again, coming in through turn 3, and it'll be Gardner, the next car that they're going to have to get by.
Just getting close enough that you could read the badge on the back of that Hewlett gearbox to even tell you what's the manufacturer number of that gearbox. It's absolutely incredible to see. But that being said, both drivers got to keep themselves well in check here, working their way through the back marker, because you got to hold your line. You've got to be predictable, and you've just not got to fight the cars working around. That being said, you can't really just jump out the way. You can be the nice guy and just allow the drivers to come through, which I do think Mr. Gardner will be doing. However, it is going to be one for the drivers having to work their way nice and gently by without losing too much time to one another. But for the likes of Birkenhoff, he can actually box in Nicholas Hilbrand right behind. And that also goes for Mick Claridge, who's fighting out Nicholas Kirstein at the moment, who is just continuing to now open up the distance. 0.6 of a second to Mick at the moment, who waits yet another lap to try and close the distance. But take a look at this. Nicholas Hilbrand lost out the drive through 2 and now is into second place as Birkenhoff retakes the lead. And we have got another pit stop coming in for Martin Bayer into the pits and getting himself sorted out. That's going to allow Darren Andrews to look to gain a position.
And maybe that is exactly what Reese Gardner needed also to get back into the mix of things. We might have three two-way battles on the racetrack right now. Burton Ops and Hilbrand, Kirsten and Claridge. And then we'll have Bear and Gardner battling it out in the backfield. And this is going to be a phenomenal race. We're only 27 laps into this 90-lap race, and we're already challenging for P1, 2, 3, 4, and now another battle brewing here shortly. Burton Ops able to stay in front of Hilbrand by some form of faith and hope right now, coming down the Mario Andretti straightaway. Not sure how he managed to do that. Just got on the brakes so late coming down and towards turn 9, but new fast lap coming out down into the 123s. Burton Ops really pulling away with that fast lap time, and I think that lap traffic was the aid that Burton Ops really needed to get by Hilbrand.
Going to have to think about it, but this is where Burton Ops has an advantage, and it comes down to a little bit of ingenuity. If you get to know the engines, you get to know where their rev ranges are. Where does that cam kick in? If the driver's getting a bit close to you, you've got a little less horsepower underneath you. You also haven't got a screaming V12. You can bring the revs down in favor for you, but for the V12 that likes to scream, you knock it off cam, he loses the drive, and it can make up 0.5 of a second in the drive as Nicholas Hilbrand, who has been losing grip more and more, is trying to close the distance down the straight. I don't think he's going to be close enough to Birkenhoff this time around to go for that inside line.
He's unable to do so yet again for the second time of asking. Really impressive stuff out of Burt to stay out in the lead of this event so far. I know it's only been a handful of laps that he has led, but super impressive nonetheless. Still down nearly 10 kilometers per hour down that straightaway, but new fast lap set by Burt, a 123.8 this time around, steals away that purple lap from anybody else on the grid.
Take a look, a bit of a hard one going in for Martin Bayer as he's spending a long time in the pits. And we have got a replay, and possibly, yep, this is it. Going and make his way around. Number 7 looking okay. And unfortunately for Martin, 2 wheels on the dirt. That's a slide. That's the car not working in favor. Front and rear suspension taking the impact. Gearbox would feel the pain. Engine would be hurting. And down into the pits where a lot of repair work is going to be happening on that car to try and see if they can get it back out onto the circuit and carry on with the race. However, it is going to be a nightmare situation for him.
Super unfortunate there, but like I said, this might be the opportunity for Reese Gardner to get back into the mix of things, with Bear having similar suspension damage that Reese had earlier on in this event. He might be able to get his lap back this time around and then challenge Bear for P7. I know it's not P1 like the battle we're watching right now, but it will be a fun battle to watch nonetheless. It's almost as if they're losing touch with each other right now, as Knops leads by half a second over Hillbrand, and here comes Martin Bear out of pit lane currently. And where is Gardner on the racetrack? Still one lap down, it looks like.
Martin, who is currently 6th in the championship, trying to pick up the pieces of this race, hoping to just try and claw anything. Getting a position here today, considering the likes of Casper Stalls and Devon Brand are not in. That is 4th and 5th in the championship. He has an opportunity to gain time. He needs to score 8 points today to be able to match with Casper, who's 4th in the championship, and needs 2 points here today to gain to match points with 5th place Devon. As we see Nicholas continuing to try and hold on to 3rd place at the moment. Take a look at the gap. 13.4 seconds between 2nd and 3rd place. Birkenhoff's going to be quite happy about this for the likes of Nicholas Kirsten, who is going to be really kicking himself at the moment, trying to figure out what does he need to do to dig deep and try get that little bit closer.
Because this does have championship implications going into potentially the final round in a few weeks' time. But man, oh man, this is going to be super interesting. If Burt finishes out in P1 right now, I believe he will get the championship title under his belt. And Nicholas Kirsten really has to do the hard work to catch back up right now. Whoa, there is a big look at the stamp and ascend to the inside line by Claridge, trying to find the inside line, but the daylight was dissipating very quickly, and the sunset in front of him was the door being shut from Nicholas Kirsten out in P3.
A definite heart in mouth moment there. Both drivers would have had a little bit of a jelly leg in trying to keep it all together, as well as we do see the likes of Martin Bear back into the pits, obviously needing some more work done on the car to try and continue on. The drivers are needing to really figure out what they can do here. These cars are rather sensitive. They're not built to take big hits. They were built for lightweight. They were built to go quickly. Heck, even the fuel tank is built around the driver, around your legs. It goes on the sides of the chassis, left and right, and when you're running the endurance tank, which is the longer distance tank, it's a small tank that literally goes over your knees. And, well, they all made out of aluminum and can bend rather easy, and with these wishbone suspension, and a slight tap against the wall, slight tap against the competition, can lead to your steering going into a 45-degree angle and a long, painful drive.
Thank God for safety regulations coming in, and we no longer have fuel tanks or flammable liquids literally surrounding the drivers. But back in 1967, when these historic races were... What's that?
We still race these. These cars still exist to this day, and they still race actively like this.
They absolutely do, but more so at historic events or at the Goodwood Festival of Speed. But they have modern safety regulations in place for a reason, is what I'm trying to say. Although these cars are grandfathered in to continue to race, but thank God for regulated fuel pods these days.
To an extent, not with the single seaters, unfortunately. they still, as they came out the factory, but that's why it's a lot of fun. At most, you'll see them with the extended roll bar just to try and protect the heads. The roll bar was just also part of the chassis to help strengthen them. And many of the cars still to this day have that lower roll bar, that because these cars were built for shorter drivers. A lot of the people that do take over the cars land up having a shorter driver climb in because taller drivers just can't, because it's majority engine and not enough place for the driver. The driver is a second factor that comes in. Remember, these chassis were developed engine first, chassis comes in later to worry about the rest of the stuff. Put that big, monstrous 400 horsepower motor, that V12 that sings an amazing tune, the V8 going and brawling out there, and consider everything else lost.
Super interesting times that were had, but super amazing driving that is being taking place right now. Burton Ops leads by 2.8 seconds. Really has done a great job of opening up that gap. We're looking at the battle between P3 and P4 currently, between Claridge and Nicholas Kirsten out in third place, and the gap has come down to just half a second. Lurking in the backfield behind, I believe that'll be Gardner in the number 22, that they're able to get by relatively smooth and easily.
Still some incredible racing for our drivers to figure out what is going to be the mainstay of this race. How far are they going to be able to push this a little bit harder, and where is it all going to come out? Nicholas Kirsten, in a world of hurt at the moment, will be scoring 6 points and will be 1 point off the championship victory just by finishing in third. He will finish with 49 points, while Bert will sit on 50. Now, if you want to go and talk about hurting a driver, say you lost our championship by 1 single point. And this being said, does carry over and may be some bigger implications, but fighting all year round to lose it by a single point, not on the cards for any of these drivers.
Now, I think at this point of the race, it's time for some fun facts about CTMP. What do you think there, Steven?
Oh yes, anytime.
All right. Mosport is the equivalent of motor plus sport plus forest roots. The original name Mosport fits perfectly. The track was literally carved out of a dense Ontario forest back in the day near Bowmanville in 1961. The natural terrain and surrounding trees still define its character, with most of the fans sitting amongst the shaded tree areas around the grandstands, because there aren't really any grandstands here, as you can tell by the viewers and watchers pretty much standing underneath car canopies or next to their caravans for the most part. There aren't very many places to sit, so you're really nestled in amongst the trees here in this Ontario forest. Quite beautiful. The wooded surroundings mean that it's not uncommon to see deer, foxes, and even wild turkeys near the perimeter during the early morning sessions. Track marshals have been known to red flag sessions due to unexpected forced visitors.
Imagine that. We red flagging the session because a wild turkey ran on the road. That would make things rather interesting. If you just say it, it's kind of one of those moments of, this is why it's a historic circuit. This is why it's such an amazing circuit. It falls in the lines of like Bathurst. It's a living circuit. It's not clinical. It wasn't designed on a map to say, okay, each corner has to be this type of angle. This was a freehand drawing of just some amazing racing. It was designed by petrolheads. It was made by petrolheads of how fun can a track be. And being the first of Canada's permanent circuits ever made to sustain throughout time, it's one of the very few circuits in the world that is still in its original state in terms of layout compared to the rest. I mean, if we take a look at throughout the calendar, we had East London a little bit earlier. That has actually changed as one of the Formula One Grand Prix, well, the Grand Prix circuits, not even during Formula One. That wasn't even a thing. It was called Grand Prix. That has even changed severely during the courses of the year. So it's wonderful to have history saved and to see a circuit designed by petrolheads, for petrolheads, for amazing racing. That, like what we get to see here as Mick Claridge keeps his foot right in it in third gear, over 200 kilometers an hour before slamming on the anchors, down in towards 6,500 RPM, feeds the throttle all the way through. But Nicholas Kirsten up ahead continues to open up that distance.
Absolutely true. Looking pretty nippy right now. This battle is getting pretty heated between the two of them out here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. It's not just the cars flying. We also got Falcons, Hawks, and Geese all competing for airspace here. And the car is getting a little airborne as they mount the sausage curbs coming out of corner number 9. And it's looking pretty spicy right now before this battle. And I've got some bird facts for you in honor of Mike Noss. I hope you're watching, Mike. I love you, brother. We've got some bird facts as well whenever you're ready for those.
Well, bird facts? Okay. Now, far as I know with a bird, it's scary with a single seater, especially at any type of speed. And when you got an open face helmet, a pigeon coming at you at 100 kilometers an hour can hit you with a force of 3.5 tons, which is not quite what your neck needs to sustain.
That is a pretty awesome bird fact. I had no idea that that's the amount of force that a bird could generate against a driver's forehead. That is pretty detrimental to the brain or to the cartilage of your brain for sure. Speaking of cartilage,
more damage to the car. If you think about it, like the driver's fine, but imagine hurting the car. Let's be honest here.
Gosh, imagine hurting the vehicle, an inanimate object versus an actual human being.
That's fine. It's fine. We madmen in any case. So using the brain, we left it in the pits. But the last thing you want to be doing is trying to explain to the team, well, I managed to put the car in the wall. Because that's going to be a very, very long night in pit lane.
A pre-green Falcon hit me right in the forehead, and I put the car into the wall. Chief, I'm so sorry. I don't think that's an actual excuse that you can use to tell your crew chief, or my crew chief at least doesn't talk to me that way. He'd tell me, "You idiot, what did you do that for?" Of course, he uses a little bit more vulgar language. Crew chief, a great application to be used. I'm sure most of the drivers are out here using it to get spotter calls and whatnot. Mick Claridge getting a lot of spotter calls telling him to hurry up. This guy is slowing you down right now. Nicholas really doing a great job of keeping his car in front right now, but not for long as he goes a little bit deep and wide at corner number 2. This is going to allow Claridge the opportunity, but Claridge just backs out of it tentatively. Doesn't want to go for a move, it seems, or does he? No, he keeps on backing out of it when he's on the attack, has the run of the road. Just seemingly keeps on backing off, potentially giving that run to the car in front for some reason. Do you think there's a strategy call here, or potentially not?
I think it's more confidence, whether he can get the car in or not. He's a bit worrying about the understeer that can possibly come in from the yonder. I mean, this is a car that you can get tons of spares for. It's an incredible machine, but he's not comfortable to really get that send in it, which is a bit weird for Mick to not have that confidence. And something tells me that round 8 at Monza really went and hurt that little bit of confidence, that little bit of trust in the car to go for those wild sends, to really put his nose in and go for a proper charge on the run. I mean, this is always something you got to talk about. That previous round, something's gone on with something's gone on with your tech that takes that little bit of trust, that little bit of confidence, and suddenly you can see yourself going that little bit slower. As there's a gap that starts to form, the understeer creeps in. That second guessing as well is just not helping him out. He needs to take a deep breath and try and get that car in for a pass.
He really just seems to be content about following right now. He keeps on lifting off the throttle when he's in a prime attacking position. I think he really is just learning from Nicholas right now, out in the lead of third place. It's just such a strange feeling, because if Gap racing driver, right? I'm just baffled by what the strategy is. He's really just not doing a great job of challenging for P3. I have a feeling like he is just biding his time right now, potentially, as we discussed earlier, fuel saving that much more behind the car in front to guarantee his success to make it to the finish line and have just that much heavier of a fuel load to make it to the end. And maybe that's the way he likes his car, just a little bit heavier, just a little bit controllable, versus when they get lighter. I imagine these things turn into rocket ships.
Well, that's the thing, is as they get lighter, it makes it a little bit more challenging to drive. But considering early on in the race, the likes of Nicholas Kirsten sits with a 124.3 as his fastest lap time. Last lap was a 125.7 for Mick Claridge. He did a 124.4 and now is doing a 125.9, maybe a 126. So he's fighting out for position, but these drivers are both nearly going 2 seconds slower, as Claridge, you can see, is just getting that car stepping out underneath him. He's not having the grip underneath him to go and push that little bit harder, and something tells me that the grip levels on both of these vehicles are starting to become a little bit more of an issue through the double right-hander, and Nicholas put the squeeze on Mick to allow that pass to happen. And take a look at the difference as they go through, revving all the way through to 10,000, 10.5 RPM to just continue on going. And Mick Claridge is now 1.1 seconds behind from 0.1 a lap earlier.
This is just gonna be a hard-fought battle for Claridge, running in the back in P4. He keeps on challenging Nicholas forward, but can't find a way by over and over again. Catching is one thing, and passing is a completely different ball game. And Mick Claridge is showcasing us why in 1967 it was so hard to get these overtakes done, and making to the finish line even that much harder. 41 laps under our belt, nearly approaching the halfway point of this event. Mick Claridge doing a great job, though. Now we're looking at Darren Andrews, the driver in 6th place, the number 19 for Bakersville Hobbyist Racing, looking pretty apt and pretty content with their running right now, in front of Bear and Gardner, running in 7th and 8th position currently.
Absolutely great stuff. And this, I think, is the hardest part for Darren Andrews, as there's space ahead and there's space behind. So now what do you do? What do you focus on? Especially in the world of sim racing, you start looking at your lap times. How consistent can you run your lap times? He's been running a 126 mid to high throughout this race. He's been consistent in that pace, and I'm sure is going to be constantly, what was my last lap time? What was my last lap time? Just trying to understand of how he is traveling in this race and where does he need to go. Consistency is key to pay it off. And yes, 65 seconds is a difference between 2025 and 2026 in terms of, well, time on a circuit. Still takes one problem, like we've seen from Martin Bayer and Reese Gardner, who landed up with both their cars getting hurt, throwing them laps down on the rest of the field.
And it really does depend on those incidents taking place. Whether you're Austin Birchfield or Burt Knopps, you're really driving on the limit of what your vehicle can produce. And it looks like Darren Andrews is just keeping it calm, cool, and collected for now. Driving within the margins of what his vehicle is capable of producing, knows where his car is comfortable, knows where he is not comfortable, extending that reach a little bit and waiting for the race to come to him. It's not a bad strategy, especially during an endurance event like this. 90 laps definitely is an endurance race. With under 90-second laps that we are running here at Mosport, 90 laps is definitely an endurance race. I'll say that with emphasis and surety, that's for sure. Anything less than that, 45 laps, 30 laps in a GT3 car where you're running around 120s, 110s, less of an endurance race, more of a sprint race, let's call it. But 90 laps, 90-second laps, yeah, it's absolutely going to be punishing on these drivers. I will be sweating from ear to ear, but also grinning from ear to ear at the same time as Claridge challenges forward yet again, has glued himself all over that rear gearbox of the driver in front. That'll be Nicholas Kirsten out in P3. Again, that 1 second gap has come down to under 1/10 of a second as Kirsten goes a little bit deep at turn number 3. Claridge gets on the loud pedal, can't find any gap as they're both equally matched right now.
And we've got to say that the Doc Yonder Racing is an incredible one. Mick Claridge trying everything he can to just get that nose pointed in to carry on the drive. Is he going to be able to do it side by side? But just couldn't get on the throttle all the way through. Also, something to note, he's in one of the newer of the cars that came in during the later part of the 1967 field in that RA301 that goes about. Oh, big mistake coming in, and that is one car into the wall. Big impact for Nicholas Kirsten, who is now going to be needing some serious repair work on his car. For Andrews, this is exactly what he wants to be able to see. But unfortunately for Nicholas, he's going to try and feel what the car is and see whether it's more drivable after that impact, that slide snapping out underneath him. And you can see how he's fighting with the steering to just try and keep it pointing in a straight line.
Super unfortunate for Nicholas Kirsten right there coming into the final corner, and I have a feeling like this car is just going to be undrivable for him, but this will solidify things for Burt Knops right now. He needed to win by at least one position out in the lead of this event over Nicholas Kirsten to solidify himself as the championship leader going into the final event. But man, oh man, this is definitely going to drive a nail into the coffin for Nicholas Kirsten. And he's going to be kicking himself saying, what if, what was, what could have been going into the final race of the season. Super hurtful there. And he's definitely going to come down pit road as he's about to get passed yet again by Gardner, I believe.
Tough time. And Gardner, who's a lap down, has got a lot more drive on him at the moment. And Reese Gardner, been fighting from the start, was part of our earlier crash, just tries to keep it going. And take a look, a little bit of a lift right before the corner, a little bit of trail braking in. He's giving as much room as possible to Kirsten, trying to say, okay, buddy, you just focus on your drive, as he does see him go into pit lane and will be getting some repair work done to the motor. Well, now, that being said, I'm going to give a bit of fun facts about the Yonder as we have on the circuit, and that is under the power of likes of Mick Claridge. It is of the later of the so this is a re-edition of the Honda RA 300 and the 301 that came out towards the later parts of the 1967. It is Honda's attempt into the world of the likes of Grand Prix racing. It's got the more modern V12 that sits with a full 3 liters and is one of the very few cars in sim and outside in real life that can go up to 12,000 RPM before you have to change gears. And some of the designers, you might know a couple of names. When I say Eric Broadley, he was the creator of Lola cars. If I go and talk about John Surtees was a designer, well, we all know John Surtees and the success that he's had across numerous forms of motorsport. Yoshio Nakamura and Sunshu Sano both coming in from Honda and giving that absolute tremendous amount of reliability, also parts for these cars. And it's one of the reasons why the Yonders here in the series is one of the very few cars, if not the only car, that can go and run without having backup regulations. Now, during the course of the year, we had, if you sustained major damage to one of your cars during the start of the season, you would switch to a different chassis. So in other words, if you drove a Scarani or a likes of a Grabham, and you hurt those chassis, you could be able to swap out to a GBR, a hopper. But if you're in a Yonder, due to the availability of parts, that rule doesn't apply to you. You keep that exact same chassis and be able to continue on the race.
Wow. Super interesting fun facts about the cars that we're seeing on track. That'll be the Doc Yonda racing team that Mick Claridge is out there running in P3, and Kirsten there with the repairs, and he's been in pit lane for quite some time. Here comes the replay of what happened out in front, the incident that happened all on his own, coming into the final pair of corners, just pirouettes the car and does hit the wall pretty aggressively there after pirouetting through the grass, but did have to check to see how significant the damage was before coming in for those repairs.
Just carried way too much speed into the corner. You could see high RPM in third gear, trying to just carry that momentum, and the pressure that was being mounted on him just got a little bit too much. That landed out with him going into the dirt. Now, caping one another is the last of Austin Birchfield, who's in fourth place, and they are currently on radio calls with one another. It's one thing about sim racing; it's always enjoyable, but there is something for Birchfield and Nicholas are going to be going well. It's a bit of movement and a bit to move forward up through the race.
Austin Birchfield running in fourth position now, with Darren Andrews getting promoted into fifth place. Martin Bear up into sixth place. Nicholas Kirsten still in pit row. Could get past by Reese Gardner in just a few moments' time. He is 4 laps down on the bit of things, but he could get this lap back due to the significant damage that Nicholas has incurred. Martin Bear running in 6th place is 3 laps down on the same lap as Nicholas Kirsten currently. Darren Andrews is 1 lap down. That leaves the front 4 on the lead lap currently. Looking at Nicholas Hilbrand out in P2, the gap has become 7.6 seconds. All that straight line speed is catching up with him, and just he cannot make up the corner speed that he needs to catch up to Bert Knops. Bert still running a 124.259 currently, and Nicholas Hilbrand running a 124.782 that last lap around, so losing out by nearly half a second a lap currently. It's absolutely crazy how fast he is running. A 124.0 that last lap around for Bert Knops. He is a monster. Even with the tire degradation coming into things, he is a full 1 second faster than the driver in P2. Nicholas Hilbrand is not comfortable with his vehicle right now. Bert Knops is just a masterclass driver tonight.
More than happy to keep it going towards the later part of the race. However, there's still plenty of time for Bert Knops. As we see, any incidents can happen at any time. It's just about if Lady Luck is going and smiling your way, or do you have Murphy holding on to that 13 spanner you lost a week ago and that number 10 socket that you lost yesterday?
Looking at big bad Bert Knops, the 05 Brabham Motorsports car, and you can see his head wavering in the wind there, coming down the Mario Andretti, leaning in towards turn 9, leading in again for 9B, and setting himself up for turn 10, wavering on the inside line. A little kiss of the curb there, but don't kiss it too hard or it might slap you in the face and send you spinning around. And then getting set up for turn 1 pretty well right now on the inside line, drifting out towards the outside crossing back over for the entrance of turn number 2, plummeting down the hill, kissing the inside line a little bit, following the patch of bitumen that has been broken up and not resurfaced there, all the way down to turn 3, where you want to follow this patch of bitumen yet again. A little touch of the curb on the inside line before you get on the loud pedal. In the 3rd gear we go, and then all the way up into 4th gear potentially before you tap of the brakes for the left-hander of turn 5. And up the hill from Moss Corner, we're going to come up and just get on the brakes so late there as you crest the hill, but not as you crest the hill, because your car will be completely unsettled. Coming down the straightaway, it's time to check your mirrors. It's time to check your gauges, do the fuel calculations, talk to your crew chief, get some data, get some information, find out who's putting in faster laps, and then you're going to get set up for the braking zone of turn 9A. Turn 9, you're going to follow this patch of grass laid out on the road for you yet again. Both sets of it indicating the ideal lines, and then you get turned in for turn 10, another kiss of the curb, and send it out to the exit curbing, and that's a lap around CTMP, folks.
Absolutely wonderful stuff. And well, I'm going to lean into a bit of a fun fact with these classic cars, because if you ever get to see them in real life with 40 laps remaining, or even go into the sim, since they have been faithful remakes of their real life counterparts, you'll notice that the rev gauges are a little bit upside down, or they are turned. The reason why they get these big gauges going and turn round is so you can actually see your maximum revs. So 1 is out the view, because you're not going to worry about that. The main ones that you're concerned about is 4,000 onwards. For your V12s, you're going to lean a little bit over so you can see from 5.5, 6,000 RPM all the way to 12,000 RPM on the gauge, to be able to know where exactly to hook gears. You would also have a little red stick that would be in place, and that would show your maximum rev where you last were on. Or you take a screwdriver, little flathead, put it on, turn it to where you want to know, okay, if I hit this red, that's when I need to change. These drivers have literally got next to nothing, but one driver that has got everything is Nicholas Kirsten, who is currently putting in the fast lap time of the lap of 123.8 on his climb back up through the order. And he is on a huge chase to catch up to the likes of Martin Bayer, who holds on to 6th position.
He is a pretty monstrous 58 seconds back currently from Martin Bayer. He's got a lot of work ahead of him with 48 laps remaining in this event. I'm not sure he can catch back up to the Scuderia Fevro car, the number 7 vehicle, and running in 6th place, but he's trying to turn that 7 on the number plate into a 7 on the leaderboard as well. Nicholas Kirsten really has to do a lot of work right now, but you know who doesn't have to do a lot of work? It'll be Burton Ops, leading in P1 on lap 52. He did all the hard work earlier on in his stint with his battle with Nicholas Hilbrand, and he really pushed for that position earlier on, as Martin Bayer was making a little bit of a mistake, going a little deep at Moss, but nothing to scream to mommy about.
Just trying to keep going. Martin Bayer was one of the drivers that landed up going through the pits quite a few times. He was earlier just going and getting himself sorted out, as we see yet another fastest lap time coming in, 123.6. Something tells me he's got a new set of tires on that car in as well to try and close up any form of distance, because he's only going to be getting 3 points for finishing in 6th position, which is going to drop him a little bit further down, as there will be a 4-point deficit between the likes of Birkenhops and Nicholas Kirsten by the end of this race. 4 points for the championship instead of 1, and that is not what you want to be having at the moment. Reese Gardner still continues on. Oh, Mick Claridge into the wall from 3rd place. Mick Claridge catches the wall. He's able to get going, but that car is going to be feeling a bit of pain. He's going to try and drive and feel it out of how bad it is, as he slows down the pace and is bouncing wall to wall, fighting with the steering. Mick Claridge, it's all gone wrong for him, and you can see taking things a little bit more gingerly, feeling that the steering is not so happy. The wishbones are a bit bent, and unfortunately, may be his race put to bed for the podium.
We said this before that Darren Andrews and Austin Birchfield were waiting for the races to come to them, driving well within their margins of error, and it looks like that's what's happened on lap 53. Mick Claridge pushing the boundaries through the final couple of corners and now has his car worse for wear. Definitely not a showroom ready vehicle any longer. As you can see, he's bouncing, trying to keep the car in a straight line, not doing very well to do so. And it almost looked like he was pondering to come down pit road as he approached that pit line, but decided against it. Now he has to do a full lap of misery before he can come down the pit lane again. He's going to be hurt coming down the back straightaway of the Mario Andretti straight, and he just cannot keep it in a straight line to save his life right now.
Going shortening that wishbone suspension by 2 centimeters after catching on the wall there, but Mick is going to be calling for a doctor to do a little bit of surgery on the car to get him back out. However, the longer he's in the pits, the more it works out for Nicholas Kirsten, who wants to climb up the points. Remember, currently is a little bit further down from where he would like to be. This may be a position opening up for him if he can keep putting in those incredibly fast lap times.
Now, looking at the timing tower, Mick Claridge has 1 lap on Darren Andrews, or 58 seconds, but that might turn into an inverse of positions as Darren Andrews should get by Mick with the amount of damage that he incurred. And then, of course, since you're in pit lane, you might as well take a new set of tires also, as we saw Nicholas Kirsten do earlier on, and therefore able to run those faster laps. Martin Baer, I don't think we'll be able to get by Mick on this pit stop strategy because he is 3 laps down from the leaders right now. Nicholas Kirsten also 3 laps down. Reese Gardner down 4 laps on the leader, and Mick Claridge will take a DNF, unfortunately. That is super sad because the driver was running so well in 3rd place, and he still could have had some battles getting towards the half end of this race.
Maybe the damage was just too much for the car, and the team going and saying, well, and that's the end of the road for the Honda. Rather take the fight heading into the next round instead. It's gut-wrenching for a driver to get this far in. 55 laps of a 90-lap race. You've fought it out. You kept going, and unfortunately, one mistake can be the end of it with these vehicles. Now, I do want to talk about the human element as we are keeping an eye on Austin Birchfield, and we spoke about consistency. These drivers are utilizing direct drives and load cell pedals on their rigs. That being said, it varies in different Newton meters, from 4 all the way through to 21 Newton meters. The load cells are varied as well, and that lands up putting a bit of wear and tear on the body. Think about this. You are sitting behind your rig. You've got your monitor in front of you. It's constantly flashing lights, and those LEDs, those QLEDs, all going and starting to dry out your eyes. You're now having to think about that because your eyes start to hurt. They get dry. You want to blink more. You want to close your eyes, and you want to focus on your drive. You're also fighting against the steering, which has got dramatic force feedback. It doesn't matter if you're on a 5 Newton meter or whether you're on a 21 Newton meter, you're still getting a lot through that steering and in through your wrists that start to build up a bit of an ache. Your arms start to build up a bit of pain in it from the lactic acid starting to come into effect. Also, due to the pedals as well, you are going and putting significant strain on your calves and on your thighs as well. You get that lactic acid. You want to try and stretch your leg as much as possible. And on a circuit like this, where you really can't move your left foot away from the brake pedal, you can't straighten your leg to get it all feeling okay. And you start to feel that stiffness creeping in, little by little by little. And each of the drivers are having to fight through that. So whoever says sim racing is not as difficult. Well, these guys are going through pretty much like they're a day of cycling on a normal 5K.
And it looks like we have an interview with Mick Claridge right now, the driver taking a DNF. Mick, how are you doing, brother? Heart goes out to you, man.
Yeah, that went from one of the best races I've ever had in my life to the worst, in one corner.
Super gut-wrenching, brother. Like I said, my heart goes out to you. You're running in third place for so long, letting the race really come to you. What was it that sent you over the limit?
Oh, that's why I'm so annoyed about it. I was so I don't even know who I'm racing out there. I'm chasing someone in an Eagle. I think it looked like, and I just didn't have the guts down the straight to do anything into the fast right-hander there down the back straight. But so I just thought, okay, this is a long race. I'll just sit here and wait. And then I just started to overheat. My body just seriously overheated. Just sweating up and everything, so I was like screaming to my son upstairs to bring a fan down. So I dropped back about lap 30 or whatever, lap 35 or whatever it was, and then the sun got the fan on me, and I was like, yeah, this is it, now I'm there. The VR headset cleared up, I was a man doing well, and then I was annoyed that he made a mistake, because it was going to be, it was shaping up to be like a race-long battle, I was like well up for it, and then he made a mistake, and then I got through, and then I was just concentrating on my tyres, and I was looking at the gap, and I was thinking, right, the gap's getting bigger, so maybe he's making more mistakes or whatever. So I was like really trying to hold back because the tyres were knackered, and I literally just got down the back straight. I looked at the tyre info, and that's it, just missed my brake marker off into the wall. Can't believe I done that. I can't believe I done that. I'd love to say it was the sim, I'd love to say it was stutters, I'd love to say it was a black screen of death, but no, it was me.
Just a lapse of concentration is all it takes at 200 kph coming into the braking zone of turn 9. And then what happened with the damage? We saw you come down pit road for the second time. Was it too much damage for you to come back into things? Were you still overheated and just drained from this event? What was going through your head when you came down pit lane and made that decision?
I didn't know I didn't know the procedure, because I'm so new to R Factor. That's the first pit stop I've ever done where I thought I have to press stuff to make stuff happen and make the damage go away and get fixed or whatever. I had no idea what I was doing. So I just looked at the car get jacked up, and I just thought, oh, that's not right. So I just thought, nah, okay, let me just get out. So I would have been miles down. I mean, I know there's low numbers today, but I really don't want to get involved in anyone's fight if they're fighting for championships and stuff like that. So I don't want to go out with a damaged car,
No, completely understand, and hat goes off you to not wanting to get in the way of other drivers. I was just looking forward to you being in the mix with Reese Gardner and Nicholas Kirsten again, potentially, because he also went off into the wall. Maybe a little rehash of that previous battle that you guys had would have been nice to see. That's why I was just curious to hear what had happened, but completely understood. My first time pitting in another sim that's unfamiliar to me, I would have had the same feeling as well, just saying, you know what, I don't know what's happening to my car right now. I'm going to be miles back from where I should be. I'm gonna go cool off right now. So hats off to you, man.
Yeah, cheers, man. I have to say, I really love the way you fight in R Factor with the cars against each other. It's completely different to what I'm used to, and it's just great. You can hold back, you can try and look after the tyres, cool the tyres down, hope the guy in front makes mistakes, and it does happen, and I was hoping I was going to get in front. Who was it who I was racing in the Eagle anyway? Who was that guy?
Nicholas Kirsten.
Right, okay, Nicholas. So I was hoping if I got in front of Nicholas, I was going to because I normally mess up a lot when I'm in front in a battle as well, So I was like really, really wanting to see what it was going to be like, because it would have probably turned around the other way, Like I say, it's such a shame. It should have been a race-long battle, but there you go.
It was, for at least half of the race, a very epic battle. And let's talk about that battle that you had with Kirsten for what seemed like basically 45 laps, because it looked like when opportunities presented themselves, you weren't really going for an attacking position. It looked like you were doing a little bit of lifting and coasting behind and maybe sizing up your opponent. Kind of tell me, what was your strategy for getting by him, or were you just waiting for a major mistake to happen before you got by him?
Yeah, it was a mixture of all of that. I was waiting, and then I was attacking, and then I was realizing I can't get round him, and then he was. If I did get a good run, he was defending really well. Have to say, his defense was absolutely 100% spot on. I couldn't do anything. You know, it took a mistake to get round him. Like I say, that's what annoys me about being thrown out of the race and him making the mistake, because like I say, it was boiling up to be a real good battle, you know. And so half of me was thinking, right, okay, shall I hold back and just look after the tyres a bit? And then, because I don't know what tyres I've got left, I've got no idea, you know. And I was watching the guys in front putting down 23s, and I'm thinking, okay, so I'm obviously not looking after the tyres that well. so yeah, it was a mixture of everything you said.
Well, it's been an amazing race up until this point. Like I said earlier, my heart goes out to you that you're not back in it. It would have been a pleasure to see you continue that battle with Nicholas in 6th place. I know it's not the podium position that you're hoping for, but it was an amazing stint that you're able to put on. Unfortunate circumstances. Well, now you know what the R Factor pit stops are like. Are you looking forward to more racing with HRSC going forward?
Yeah. I mean, I do a lot of cycle travelling, so I'm going to be doing that next year in April. We're going to do a hell of a long cycle ride, so I'm going to be away from sim racing, like in the spring anyway. So yeah, I mean, I'm going to head back to iRacing and you know, bust some laps out in Lotus 49 over there for their races. But then yeah, when I'm back and I'm free and clear, I'm coming straight back, because it's such a brilliant league. It really is. I'll probably do the race tomorrow. I'll probably do the B race tomorrow. Hopefully, anyway.
On a personal note, what do you mean by cycling traveling? Like on a bicycle, you're going to go cross country or something? Tell me more.
Yeah,
Come on, you can't just leave me hanging like that.
Okay, it's a long story though. You sure?
I think we have time, Stephen. Is that okay?
I think we got more than enough, because I want to know the madman that wants to go on a bicycle for a long time and traveling on a bicycle when, well, you can get something with a motor, a bit of fuel, a bit of combustion, then tends to go. But I'm curious now, Mick.
Okay.
Yeah, tell us.
A long time ago, pre-COVID, I played drums in a band as well. So a friend of mine introduced me to someone who was riding from London to Rome, and so I did it with him. Yeah, so I did that, and on the way down, when we got to Lake Geneva, I arranged to meet up with a guy who I race with, an iRacer. So that was the start of the whole thing. So I met him, and then we got to Rome. We did the same ride the next year again for charity, and then we decided we wanted to ride across America. So that was the plan. So COVID happened, so that didn't happen. But on the plan up to that ride, a lot of the guys on iRacing were saying, look, you're going to be riding through my town, you know, you got to come visit and all the rest of it. And I just couldn't agree to any of it, because we put ourselves on such a serious schedule. We was like doing like 90, 100 miles a day planned, you know, to go across the states. You know, we wanted to do it in less than 50 days. Anyway, so COVID happened, that ride just died. And I just thought, why don't I just try and meet everyone I know? So that was the plan. So I headed off. I went from London. I headed down through Europe, through the Netherlands. I started meeting all my iRacing mates. I took an iRacing t-shirt, got them to sign it. Carried on going. I went down through Germany, went over the Alps, got into Italy, across the Adriatic Sea, into Croatia, down to Greece, through Turkey, and then out to Kazakhstan. And when I got to Kazakhstan, everything got stolen. On day one in Kazakhstan, so I had to come back. So that was that. So I never got to finish it. And I always remember my friend. I got a really good friend, Nick Cocky, who drives the 49 on iRacing, and he said to me when I met him on the east coast of Italy, and he said to me, "Who's next?" And I said, "Oh, a guy called Seb Tixio who lives in Singapore." And he said, "So maybe I'm the last one then." And he was right. So it's really annoyed me and irked me for a few years now. So next year is the plan. I'm starting again, and I'm going to head off. I'm going to do the same route again and carry on and try and meet some more people, and maybe, hopefully, try and get around the world. So that's the plan.
That would be absolutely amazing. What a wonderful story. From London to Rome baffled me already.
Yeah.
How long of a stint is that, by the way?
From London to Rome,
Yeah.
that took us 3.5 weeks. So
3.5 weeks of riding
Yeah.
at around 100 miles a day.
well, it wasn't 100. No, it wasn't. It was less than 100 miles a day on that ride. It was considerably less. It was 100 miles a day for the first 6 or 7 days, and then we backed off right off because we were feeling it. So we was down to about 50, 60 miles a day. But yeah, I mean, I can't do much more than that when I'm carrying all my gear as well. You know, the bike weighs like upwards of 60 kilos. You know, when I'm heading out on the road, I'm fully toured up. You know, with tents and sleeping bags and food and clothes and everything else. You know, so but it's something I want to do. It's something I've wanted to do for a long time. You know, so next year.
And here I thought I was a cool guy on my motorcycle traveling across 3 states in the United States, loaded up with my tent, my sleeping bag, and food and stuff. Here you are pedaling your happy little butt all across Europe, doing it, you know, with human power.
It's tough when when you're used to being on a sim rig, you know, for months and months doing all these seasons and getting into it, and then you think, right, I'm going to head off the next day. Tomorrow's the day. You get out into the world on your bike, and the next night you're in a tent. You feel like you've joined the army, man. It's tough. It's tough, man. It's tough. It takes a lot of getting used to, you know. So yeah.
Oh, you're not wrong. And you know what? You remind me of why I love camping so much, because I was in the Air Force myself, the United States Air Force, and it just takes me back to the glory days of setting up camp in the middle of nowhere and having nothing but the food that you brought in with you, and chopping down trees to get firewood and the whole thing. You're not dragging in an army's worth of machinery with you to chop down trees, but you really just have a hatchet and your arms to break down limbs or gather up firewood off the ground. And one of the things I loved about moto camping myself was just that ruggedness of it. You're really relying on the elements to give you what you needed to get from one stop to the next stop, and the generosity of other human beings as well, you know, whether you're on the road.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I've met people that have walked from London to Rome. I've met people that, like myself, do cycle touring. I've met guys on motorcycles, and trust me, none of it is easy. Even on a motorbike, you chuck the miles in, and you feel like you've done a serious day's work when you get off that bike. I know what it's all about, man. It's tough. It's tough going.
Ah, man, it is, but there's nothing quite like the open road in front of you. It's one thing to be behind the wheel of a simulator and be able to drive, you know, Mosport one day and then go to Italy the next day and then go to the United States to Watkins Glen the next week and so on and so forth. But there's nothing quite like touching some grass, as the kids say these days, and getting some fresh air and being able to do some wonderful things like that. Mick Claridge here, everybody, doing a wonderful thing. And are you riding for charity again, or are you just doing it for fun, visiting friends? What's the moral, or what's the story behind your next trip? Just to finish up the stint?
Yeah, I'm going to start again because I want to go and see places that I never saw the first time. So I want to go and see some old tracks as well. So I want to go and see Rouen in France. I want to go and see Reims. I want to go and see Zolder. I want to go through Spa. I want to head down to Hockenheim like I've been before. So that, and meet all the guys that I'm racing with. Some, I mean, you know, Nico's already saying, yeah, come on, let's meet up, you know, when you're on your way through Germany. So I'm going to meet up with Nico now. You know, someone I've never known. You know, I didn't know him until a month ago. So, you know, that's what I love about it. I love meeting the people. I love meeting the cyclists out on the road. You know, like, you know, you meet another cyclist out on the road who's doing the same thing, and you're best mates. You know, because they know how hard your life is at the moment when you're cycle touring. You know, and so it's just great, and I don't know. It's just I just want to meet all the people that I race with. I've been doing this sim racing now since it began. You know, and I've raced with people. I've literally been racing people that have been, you know, young guys. Then they've got married. Then they've had kids, and some of them, sadly, have even passed away. You know, so I just want to meet the people that I'm racing with. I've had enough of seeing names on screens, you know, and just chatting to guys in chat. You know, I want to go and see these people. That's the main reason.
And that's one of the beautiful things about sim racing and getting involved in these communities. I think getting involved in sim racing is great, and iRacing. You don't really get to know the people that are behind the screen because the names change so frequently, right? But when you get involved with a community like HRSC, you really get to know these people week after week. You're hanging out in voice channels with them. You're in general chat with them, shooting the garb about F1 modern day stuff or even old school stuff that you're rewatching, right? It becomes more of a community than it is just a number. Oh, it's that guy again who crashed me out in the, 2 races ago or a day ago. No. Now it's Nicholas Hilbrand. Now it's, Andrews. Now it's Birchfield. It's, these guys week after week, and especially with a very long championship like the one we've been running with HRSC, it becomes a family. And the fact that you're going out and meeting some of these guys, whether it's in this community or various communities that you're a part of, it's absolutely phenomenal to hear. And I think that's the beauty of sim racing. You don't get that with Call of Duty. You don't get that with Battlefield. You don't get that with a lot of other video games that you can touch, feel, and perform with. And I think that's one of the things that makes sim racing such a phenomenal esport over any other esport that's out there, is the genuine quality of people that you'll run into, because the people that aren't that good of people, well, they just get weeded out at the end of the day. Yellow in Sector 3 being called out. I think we have another incident going into the wall, but back to Mick Claridge right now. Steven, did you have any further comments or questions for Mick?
All I could say, Mick, is I take my hat off to you. It's something I did not expect. And as a driver that has followed your career in terms of sim racing, I'm going to try and pick my jaw off the ground here, considering Shingos. I don't know how one does it. And honestly, good luck. And listen, to have you on the track.
Cheers, man. Listen, there's nothing superhero about this riding. If you're into riding bikes, which I've been all my life, I got from riding BMXs back in the 80s, then I went on to road bikes, and then what I did was I just picked a route out around West London where I lived, and I just rode 15 miles a day, and I was doing that like 3 days a week, and then the rest of it, and then all of a sudden you're doing 40 miles 3 days a week, and then all of a sudden someone says, "Oh, do you want to ride to Rome?" That's how it happens. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, "Oh, I'm going to ride around the world." It just doesn't happen like that. So anyone can do this stuff. You can ride a bike, you can do it. And I just have to say amen to what you said about all that. Like the sim racing, the family, and everything. That's it. That's it's 100% spot on with everything you said there. I can't add anything to it.
Oh, it's beautiful, man. It's one of the reasons I got into broadcasting myself, was community of guys that I liked, I got along with, wanted to meet them in person and talk about them. Well, morally, I wanted to talk smack about them because I never could be faster than them. So it was my opportunity to shine, and they gave me a shot at broadcasting, and the world just kept on ticking ever since. And I can't thank my family enough for getting me to this position and allowing me the opportunity to watch wonderful racing week after week, day after day, with yourself and so many others included in that register of drivers that I get to just watch grow and participate in these series. It will be a darn shame that we won't see you at HRSC again as you're on your bike tour. And how long do you expect to be on the road for this time around?
Minimum a year and a half. It's a good 40,000 mile journey. So it's 33, 34,000 miles. I wanted to go and see a lot more people in the States, but I've got to straight line it across America. It's just too hard to do with the difference in the weather, north and south. So I've got to straight line it pretty much from Seattle all the way to Boston and then down to Florida. But it's going to be on YouTube. Everyone's welcome to go and watch it. So. I can't wait, and I'm going to miss sim racing while I'm out there, but like I say, it's something I've wanted to do for a long time now, and I've got to do it. This is the last chance,
Yeah, completely understood. with the
I'm getting too old, man.
Yeah. Hey, you're telling me I've already got bad back problems, bad everything problems now. With the race producer Christian's permission, can he plug his YouTube channel very quickly?
Oh, I haven't even got. Do you know what? I haven't even got one set up. But I know what you're going to say is. I know what Christian's. Gonna mention. Yeah.
Well, if it is allowed, we'll love to have you back. That way you can promote your own YouTube channel here in the future. I'd really appreciate that and love to watch you make your travels around the United States. Well, if you're in the area of Santa Cruz of California, make sure you come and visit the likes of me. You've got a fresh couch to lay your head at and a fresh hot shower out in the mountains of Santa Cruz. So you're more than welcome to come crash at my place if you do end up making your way. But it sounded like you said you were starting in Seattle, and I don't know why you want to visit Seattle versus Santa Cruz, man.
I'm going to Seattle. I know two guys that live in Seattle. I know a guy who lives in San Francisco, so I'm going to do the Pacific route. I'm coming down that way, and then I'm heading back up. So yeah, it's a crazy route, man. It's not straightforward. So yeah.
No, that's not straightforward at all.
Yeah, cool, man. Let's do it.
Yeah, come down. You're San Francisco, Santa Cruz. You're only a day's ride away from me. I'll even come meet you in San Francisco if that's what it needs to be. But love to meet you in person as well as many others, I'm pretty sure. Just under 20 laps remaining in this event. Have you got any words of encouragement for some of the drivers still toting around right now?
Look after those rears, man. Jesus. Cheers, guys. Thanks for letting me go on about my ride. I told you it was a long story, didn't I?
Hey, it was perfect.
That's the short
for
version,
me,
man. That's the short version, guarantee you. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, Mick. Thank you so much for joining us in the broadcast booth. Really appreciate you, sir.
I just can't believe going and deciding to ride a bicycle for that distance, and I'm still trying to pick my jaw off the ground. That being said, we've been keeping an eye on Nicholas Kirsten at the moment, who is in 6th position, just under a minute. But as we take a look at the replay of him having a little bit of a moment trying to keep the car in check, as he's been pushing harder and harder each lap there, over the curb, bottoms it out, turns it round, he's able to save the car, but also getting a big fright. And I do want to talk about the current championship standings as they will finish. If the race had to end right now, I've been sitting doing a little bit of math in the background. Birkenhops will be leading with 50 points. Nicholas Kirsten will be in 2nd place on 46 points. Jurek Simonik will be in 3rd place with 37 points. Casper Stols will be in 4th place. Nicholas Hilbrand will be running tied for points against Martin Bayer, who both will be sitting on 24 points for that 5th and 6th position. And moving on to our 7th will be Devin Brain, who is not in the grid here tonight. Will hold on to 7th. Farnik Godricki will be running in 8th position. Danny Volman in 9th. Rounding out our top 10 will be Matty Shepherd. So there will be a couple of positions getting gained. One of them going all the way down to Darren Andrews will be moving up into 12th place, scoring 5 points, 1 point off Matt Wright, who is in 11th. So there is a lot going on for Reese Gardner. You'll be moving up from 21st to 18th position by the end of this race, just by finishing.
Pretty interesting stuff there, and good commentary math. Rather than done on a napkin, I was actually sent an Excel spreadsheet with all of the data, so you know it's actually somewhat accurate rather than just doing commentary math, was usually done on a cocktail napkin with a crayon for the most part. But Nicholas Hilbrand, running in 2nd place for Scuderia Fevrero, is doing a great job keeping it calm, cool, and collected, but not as calm, cool, and collected as Bert Knops. Bert has pulled out a monstrous 24.5 second gap over his opponent. absolutely phenomenal run of things from start to finish. Burt has been on a rampage to get around Nicholas Hilbrand, and he managed to do so, and then managed somehow to make that corner speed that he had the advantage of work in his favor, pulling out lap after lap, nearly 1 second of a gap on Nicholas Hilbrand, who is unable to make his top speed work in his favor. Currently, he is running 125.4s compared to the 124.5s of Burt out in the lead.
Absolutely incredible running at the moment. Nicholas trying to close down that distance of 24 seconds. And not too long ago, we were talking about 0.3 of a second, 0.4 of a second, but seems like Birkenhoff's managed to keep the tires in check. He's a little bit more comfortable and leans onto what you said. Goes and focuses on the end of the stint being far better for him to try and open up the distance. That is really being shown. However, we got to keep an eye out for the likes of Martin Bayer, as if he visits the pit lane, he will lose out to Nicholas Kirstein, and with that, Nicholas will gain into 5th position and 1 step closer to trying to close down that wonderful gap that he's got at the moment to Birkenhoff. So for Nicholas at the moment, he's hoping for others' misfortune to come in to bring him closer for the championship. At the moment, 4 points separate the championship.
This championship couldn't be closer than ever. An amazing grid of drivers, as we heard from one of them just a little while ago, Mick Claridge, telling us how hard it was to drive these vehicles and what a simple lapse in concentration will do to your race, sending him to the back of the pack and even DNFing the car, as we see from many others as well. One little simple mishap will send them to the back of the field and nearly 3-minute pit stops, losing multiple laps to these cars on the lead lap that have kept it calm, cool, and collected. Birkenhoff's doing the best job so far. 26 seconds in the lead of this event, driving on the absolute brink of what he's capable of doing right now. He's just drifting it through corner number 3 and setting it through corner number 4 right now, and up the hill through Moss Corner. Let's see how risky he ends up making it. It looks pretty timid right there as he approaches Moss Corner, knows that he has the advantage, doesn't need to go for any fast lap points as he already has the fast lap of the race, 123.656.
This is going to be interesting. He set the fastest lap time of the race on the previous lap, but the question is, does he need to keep pushing harder and harder, or is this the car running lighter and lighter and starting to show what horsepower versus having a bit of weight drop come into play? Remember, we've got to consider that these cars at a wet weight is 500 kilograms. Now, half a ton of car, that is lots and lots of fuel on board. As the fuel's going away, that weight's starting to drop. That power to weight ratio is starting to change and work out in their favor. They'll get down to about 460 kilograms of just pure car by the end of a dry tank. And that is going to play into the hands of it. However, the fuel is going to be a little bit tricky, as these cars have it between some having behind the driver's seat and others that is in front over the legs of the drivers, and that goes and affects how the weight is distributed, how the car goes and changes. And if you haven't practiced with a lighter car in terms of fuel being taken out of it and the worn out tires, you might get an awful shock. Let's go for average sim races. We climb into the sim. We do about 10, 12 laps. We say we're happy with the setup, and that's about that. Try and do it to get to 90 laps in a race. From doing 1 lap to 90, to feel what the car's going to do over that duration. That amount of practice, that amount of dedication is just what makes these drivers different from your average Joes to your professionals that are representing the sim racing world.
I think you put it there perfectly. That's what separates the sim racing pros from the sim racers on iRacing or any other platform, whether it be R Factor 2, Assetto Corsa. Most sim racers, like you said, will just put in the 10 or 12 laps, say, yep, I'm happy with that, I'm good to go, and go ahead and drive their 90 lap stint for the very first time during their actual event. The sim racing pros will actually do a 90 lap stint as practice and drive, if not more laps than that, to dial in their setups to get the feeling of how the car will handle. And they'll do that multiple times, especially if you're doing endurance events, right? You want to practice doing a double or even a triple stint a few times before you get behind the wheel of a car and do your first double and or triple. I know from personal experience, doing a triple stint for your first time in an actual event leads to costly mistakes for you and your team. But when you practice it beforehand under controlled conditions, you're more likely to succeed because you know what to expect from your body, you know what to expect from your vehicle that's handling beneath you, and you know what to expect during traffic as well. Reese Gardner promoted up into 7th position now in front of Mick Claridge, gaining that lap back, but still is a back marker to the cars around him, unfortunately.
Yeah, but Reese Gardner at the moment, just by continuing on his race, will move up from 21st to 18th. And this is what comes in. If you are willing to stick it out, regardless if the chips are in your favor or not, you gotta have that climb up through the order. For the likes of Monbea, who is a little bit further down, he will sit tied in points with Nicholas Hilbrand, who holds on to second place. They both will be sitting on 24 points. Ironically enough, both are teammates for the Scuderia Fabio team and looking to go and take some points home for the team championship.
Now, in this series, as I'm unfamiliar with it, are there prizes at stake for the drivers at hand? Or is it just competing for bragging rights here, Stephen?
I would say the prize is just to go and see it through to the end, to hold the crown, to have the smile, and to say that you've conquered one of the hardest vehicles in sim racing. And I cannot stress that enough. These cars are extremely difficult to drive. They are extremely difficult to master. But I challenge everyone to go and try them out, to join the series and to be a part of it. Whether you're in the Formula A, where it's all the big, powerful engines, it's all the big, powerful cars, or Formula B, which will be on tomorrow, right here on the Genesis Extreme channel for the HRSC, I invite you, because if you can get to grips with these types of cars, you can drive anything. And that includes cars that have ABS and traction control that you might land up turning that stuff off because you realize it's a lot more fun to go sideways.
It is a lot of fun to go sideways, especially in some cars without electronic aids, especially when you're driving open wheel cars that aren't necessarily designed to go sideways. These powerful, like you said, V12 machines just screaming as much as they possibly can, revving all the way up to 14,000 on some of these vehicles. And you usually only find that on some 400cc motorcycles back in the day, like an FZR 400 built in the 90s, as far as I can recall, with a rev limiter of 14K. But man, oh man, these things look like they are a ball. I'm not much of a historic fan myself, but you're turning me into one, that's for sure. And I might do some wheeling around in R Factor 2 after this event, just to get a glimpse of what the drivers had to deal with for 90 grueling laps. We're on lap 81, only 9 remaining. It's been all up to the duo at the front of the field, Bert Knops and Nicholas Hilbrand, doing the best job that they possibly can. Sitting in P3 will be Birchfield, and he is 72 seconds down, but keeping it extremely collected right now is Birchfield, and letting the race come to him, settle in his lap, and he's driving well within his limits right now.
I do want to point out, for the likes of Birchfield, he has kept it clean throughout the race, just been keeping his times going. He's comfortable sitting in the higher part of the 125s in terms of a lap time, he's been just slowly ticking away and moving forward. But I do want to point out for the last 20 laps, Birkenhops and Nicholas Kirsten have been trading fastest lap between one another. And the only cars that have gained positions in this race is Birchfield and Andrews going and climbing up through the order. However, for Cassette, dropping down 3 positions from where he started. Everyone else has maintained their original grid positions.
Really interesting to see that stat on the left-hand side of your screen attached to the leaderboard right now. Birchfield up 3, Andrews up 4, everybody else staying right where they are except for Nicholas Kirsten, who has lost 3 positions on the grid due to that earlier accident that he was involved in going in towards turn 9 and then having another incident coming out of 9B, just avoiding the wall nearly, but still in for a slide similar to that one. On cue, he performs another drifto for us to let us know that where he's paying attention to the broadcast here and there. The number 9 running in 6th place overall with 1 stop to his name, as well as Bear and 1 stop for Gardner. Claridge had that 1 stop to his name, but couldn't get the pit stop dialed in and therefore had to DNF from this event. And Nicholas Kirsten is going off at Moss Corner, and he's seemingly losing his concentration with only 8 left to go.
You just got to keep yourself dialed in every which way possible to try and get yourself across the line, but also take a look at who's been through the pits and who hasn't. Birkenhops, Nicholas Hilbrand, Birchfield, and Andrews have kept themselves going. And this is on fuel and tires are able to go that distance. However, it is the very few drivers that haven't had a moment to take a breath. Likes of Bayer, Kirsten, and Gardner all got to visit the pits for a variety of issues. Each of them also got an opportunity to take their hands off the wheel, take a breath, stretch their legs, get back on, and get out of there. That, you could say it's a cat nap in regards to it, where you're able just to get a little bit more comfortable and refocus into the race. It's that moment that you can close your eyes and just try and get some of the moisture back into the eyes and carry on. Or in the case, and we heard from Mick Claridge a little bit earlier, it's the difference between getting a fan on you or not.
That's very true. Being able to yell at your son and get yourself a little bit of air, as we see the replay from Burton Ops trying to go for more fast laps and having a bit of a slip and slide moment at the tip of Moss Corner, going off onto the curbing and losing it under the brakes, but just a little loss of traction there resulted in loss of time and no further damage to that vehicle. But you can tell that he's pushing. He's proving me wrong. Speaking of those fast laps, his fast lap was just a few ago, a 1:23.458, and he's still putting down continued fast laps right now.
Absolutely incredible stuff. And as the laps tick away, this is where it's more dangerous to be in the race, because now you've just gone from focusing, tunnel vision, and go. The moment that you start to see 10 laps left, and 9, 8, 7, you start to count down. You start to look at the boards coming out and saying, all right, the checker flag's coming out, and you start to lose concentration on what's happening. You start going out of that autopilot mode that many of the drivers would get themselves into. And as Mick Claridge went and had during the course of his race, he got out of that focusing on what he needs to do, looked over to a different part of the screen, saw that his timing was there, missed a brake marker, and that was it, done and dusted. This is one of the most dangerous times in a race, and especially as they've been fighting it out. Remember, they're going to be going for maybe 2 hours in these cars in just the race alone. That excludes going and doing the practice beforehand, the warm-ups beforehand, the qualifying as well added into the mix. I mean, this is going to be the toughest part. And as our absolutely legendary, historic cameraman goes and points out, the most accidents on road in terms of statistics is when you're 5 kilometers from home.
That's very, very true. 5 of these laps remaining coming around CTMP. That will leave us, my math is not great, but 4 kilometers a lap, 5 laps left to go. Let's do some quick maths. We're about 20 kilometers away from the checkered flag, folks, and we're going to be waving it high and mighty here at HRSC and doing a great job. Bert Knops as driving the Bravo Motorsport 05 and pushing it as hard as he possibly can. Let's see if he makes any glimpses of a mistake coming into Moss this time around. No, I think he's a little bit more cautious this time of asking coming through Moss corner, but getting on the throttle pedal, he's a little bit squirrely whirly, and I think those tires might be fading away from him just a tiny, tiny bit.
Going to be a difficult one, and the moment that it starts to fade away, that is when you've gone from driver to passenger in these cars. You start to realize how difficult they are to drive, how difficult they are to master. And by the end of 90 laps, if you want a scary thought, they would have traveled 369 kilometers of just racing. 369 kilometers of keeping their foot buried into that throttle, pushing around a circuit that is 36 degrees temperature and with an ambient temperature of 18, but the track is extremely hot out there, and these drivers have been going on most of the drivers sitting on a single stint. Their tires are exactly the same as what they started with. They're trying to push that little bit harder. They are worn out, and I gotta say, this is where it is hats off to the pros to keep up the pace. And not many can say, I've gone and taken a vehicle made in 1961 that has no electronic aid and fired out around Mosport in Canada for 369 kilometers.
It is an endurance race for sure, amongst the best of the best driving at HRSC. Doing a phenomenal job. Everybody on the grid, including Mick, getting to the finish line. Everybody who participated is a hero in my eyes. Even the drivers that missed today's race are heroes in my eyes. Being able to wrestle these behemoths around any track whatsoever has got to be a huge challenge to surmount, and getting to the checkered flag at the end of the day is just the icing on the cake. I don't care what position I'm in during any endurance event, as long as I make it to the end is what my motto is. Even if I'm fighting for P not last, or if I'm fighting for P last, it goes both ways. Making it to the checkered flag, making it to the end of the championship is what makes you a great driver and have the mental fortitude to compete season after season, race after race, despite what the I rating is, despite what your R factor rating is, despite what anybody says about you. It's all about the mental fortitude. Getting through nearly 2 hours of driving nonstop, flat out for the majority of these guys has got to be mentally fatiguing. And speaking of, it's got to be physically draining as well, as we heard from Mick earlier on, his son having to provide him with a fan. He was getting so overheated working the wheel. Now, I'm sure all the other drivers don't have that privilege of having a child nearby or a spouse nearby able to cool them down at a brief moment's notice, but trying to do whatever they can to keep themselves calm, cool, and collected throughout this event to avoid making any critical mistakes, especially when we're just 12 kilometers from the checkered flag.
It's always important to have your pit crew sorted out and make sure that they look after you as well as you look after them. That being said, also to everyone out in the virtual grandstands, as we're getting ready to see the closing stages of this race, Bert Knops leads out the field. Nicholas Hilbrand lies in second place. Andrew Birchfield holds on to third. He's slowly but surely clawed his way up towards podium positions, yet hasn't been the quickest. He's been the most consistent of all the drivers out on the track, and that you got to take your hat off to. It's a driver that has known his limits, not pushed out of it, and just ticked every box needed to hold on to third place. The likes of Darren Andrews holds on to 4th place. Mon Bear lies in 5th. Nicholas Kirsten in 6th place. And Reeds Gardner holds on to 7th, unfortunately, with one single DNF coming in from Mick Claridge, who didn't even get to see 10 laps left of this race. He goes and joins everyone out in the virtual grandstand, cheering on, shouting to all the drivers, let's go, let's see it through, as Birkenhops comes across the line. 89 out of 90. It is going to be a race and a half for him. This is where the championship flips in his favor. If he gets across the line, takes the checkered, it is a cool 50 points for round 9. He will get the full 11 points. That'll move him 50 points and 4 points ahead of Nicholas Kirsten, who will lie in 2nd place on 46 points in the championship for 2025 of our Open Wheel Racing Championship here on HRSC.
Amazing broadcast up until this point, and it'll continue to be one going into the future. Looking forward to the next race tomorrow that will be coming up for the Formula B as well. But now we're getting to the white flag lap. Birkenhops leads the field over Hildenbrand, and then we have Birchfield, Andrews, Bear, Kirsten, and Gardner rounding out the 7 remaining drivers here tonight. Bear being the first of the pit stop callers and the first driver on the grid to have taken a pit stop of this event, ended up working that in his favor after a very early incident. But it'll all be up to this man leading us for the final lap for the final time. The number 90 approaches turn 1 tentatively, knowing that he has a 32-second gap. Will he be pushing it to the limit? It's Birkenhops. Of course he's going to be pushing it to the limit, getting a little squirrely as he gets onto the loud pedal, drifting it all the way wide through turn number 2, going out to the exit curbing of 2, and then now sending it through turn number 3. It's Birkenhops on the limit of control right now. Knows he has a light fuel load, knows that he can push the car as hard as he might, and he approaches turn 4 with tenacity and ferocity, going forward into Moss corner now for the final time of asking Sterling Moss's aptly named corner, because he said, you know what, it would be better if this was a double right-hander rather than a hairpin. And CTMP said, you know what, we're going to name this corner after you.
Absolutely wonderful stuff, and going to be sitting with a smile on his face, not too big, otherwise he's going to have those turkeys coming across the road that we spoke about earlier. That does land up bringing out the flags, but Birkenhops is going to be smiling for the championship as he battled his way around, fought Nicholas Hildebrand for the good start of this race, not having the top end power to go and pull away from the rest of the field, but does come across the line in 1st place and taking the lead of the championship for the Open Wheels Racing Championship in the Formula A class. Birkenhops is going to be happy with that one. Austin Birchfield, the most consistent driver who was out the top 3, waited, bided his time, and waited for the opportunity, will take the final step on the podium and has become one of the most consistent drivers. Nicholas Hildebrand fought his way at the start of the race. It didn't turn out towards the later part. Will take 2nd place and scoring a good haul of points for him. Absolutely great stuff from all our drivers here at the Canadian Motorsports Park. And wow, oh wow, if you think about the repercussions of the championship thus far, Nicholas has really thrown the spanner in the works here. But for Nicholas Kirsten, who was into this race, leading the championship, has now lost that lead in round 9 with round 10 to go. Well, and he make up that 4-point deficit? This is going to be the question, but I gotta say, Sogar, take us through our Open Wheel Racing Series finishes for round 9.
For round 9 of 10, Burton Ops led the field, and it'll be 90 laps under his belt, taking home P1. And P2, it'll be Nicholas Hillbrand. And then in third, Austin Birchfield on 89 laps. Darren Andrews in 4th place. Martin Bear in 5th place. Nicholas Kirsten in 6th place. An earlier incident resulted in him falling back a few laps, and a pit lane stop for him, unfortunately, there. For Reese Gardner as well in 7th place, number 22, and Mick Claridge taking the DNF with a big incident into the wall, resulting in some pit lane drama there. But we had a lovely interview with Mick in 8th place, and best of luck to him on his bicycle journey as well.
Absolutely wonderful, wonderful stuff. And I'll take my hats off to any driver that wants to do the bicycle journey. I would keep to a bit of petrol engine to do that. But that being said, it's been an incredible one, and I know we're going to be chatting to a couple of the drivers after such a spectacular race that from the start, first, second, third, and fourth were all within a second of one another, fighting out for the top spot. But as they start driving around, they're making their way to the pits. It's a bit of formation flying for those that have gotten across the line and will be smiling ear to ear. I want to take my hat off to Reese Gardner as our driver that didn't give up the ghost and saw it through to the end, being one of the first cars to catch the wall.
Truly gives a lot of credit to his fortitude to be able to make it to the checkered flag despite having a very early incident, but overcoming that and returning to the racing track, staying out of the way of the green flag runners that were still battling for position, and managing to keep it pretty much on the racetrack from then on out. Reese Gardner did a phenomenal job to bring it home in P7 despite everything that he potentially went through. And it looks like we have some drivers waiting to be interviewed coming up next.
Well, bringing in our first place driver and taking over the lead of the championship, Birkenhoff's well done on a victory for Brabham Motorsport. How are you feeling after that nose-to-tail fight in the first start of the race? And also, with a max speed of 271 kilometers an hour, you were slower than the rest of the field in terms of top speed.
Yeah, that was a very exciting race, and I'm very tired now. My tires were also gone at the end, so everything is used up. But yeah, it was very, very good fun.
During the course of the race, where did you feel that you managed to get your second win, to push that little bit harder? The first part of the race, you were nose to tail, you were giving it your all, but towards the later part of the race, you walked away with the fastest lap time of the race, getting into the 23s. At which point did you feel, okay, I'm back, I'm ready, I'm going to push that a little bit harder?
I think as soon as Nico started making some small mistakes, I had a feeling my tires were staying in a bit better shape. And luckily an opportunity opened, and then I could run away in the end.
Now, knowing that you currently lead the championship after round 9, what's the game plan to take the 2025 championship of the Open Wheel Series?
Just do the same as I've done all season. Try my best and not get into any nasty accidents or stuff. And try to maximize the result.
Absolutely wonderful, wonderful stuff. And really, congratulations on a stellar race. Before we let you go to enjoy the champagne, the celebrations, and also get some rest after 369 kilometers of pure flat-out action. Is there anyone that you want to have a shout-out to or thank out there in the virtual grandstands from yourself and Brabham Motorsport?
Mostly my wife for putting up with me for having this hobby.
Well, absolutely wonderful. Birkenhoff's taking the victory here at Canadian Motorsports Park. Thank you once again for joining us, and a stellar run. But Sega, you have got our second place driver on the mic with you, and I'm going to leave that to you.
Nicholas Hilbrand, how are you doing? Very hard fought race in that first stint, the first half of this event. Driving the Scuderia Fevro, you were in the lead as far as top speed is concerned, 283 kilometers per hour, and you were really making that work coming down the Mario Andretti straightaway. How hard was it for you coming through the corners against a guy like Bert Knops?
Hey there, guys. First of all, thanks for the broadcast and the great commentary. Was super difficult, honestly, because Bert is an absolutely fantastic driver. I mean, he told us this fun tidbit, like back in the GPL days, this was the first track where he got a lap record, like a world record, from Gregor Hutu. So, from the entire week, I already knew, okay, he's gonna be the guy to beat once again, because he's been superbly fast all season long, and the Brabham really suits around here. It's got less power, of course, but he also has to put less power on the road, so especially around all these like twisty bits, which there are a lot of in Mosport. Super difficult to get rid of him, and Mario Andretti straightaway was the only point where I could get some breathing room for about 2-3 corners, and then he was back already.
And we were watching that like a hawk as well. You would be able to pull ahead of him by a mile, it seemed, on the Mario Andretti straightaway, but then during turn 9, he just closed down the gap so substantially it was back down to less than a tenth under the braking zone. What was it about your car, or what was it about your driving style that really allowed you to stay in the lead of the event for the first half or so?
It's mainly a thing of the car has the raw pace, but unfortunately only for short bursts of time. Like the main thing, pretty much like for the last 60 laps of the race, I had to constantly just watch the tire wear, and I already didn't watch it enough, because the final move that I made to get the lead back from him in the S's after the Mario Andretti straightaway, that completely ate up my rear left tire, and after that the heat degradation was just so insane. So when he got passed again in turn 2, I just had nothing left to counter with, so all I could do was basically just nurse the car home at that point.
Copy that, Nicholas. Thank you very much for joining us in the broadcast booth. I really appreciate it. Is there anything in your race that we may have missed, or anything else that you'd like to mention?
Honestly, I'm just insanely happy to finally get a position higher than third. Had 2 of those in the beginning of the season, and since then a bit of a dry spell, but it finally got a little bit better again. I messed up my chance of getting a race win at Nürburgring, so my home race then, so my fiance is Canadian, so this is at least some consolation.
Some consolation for the family at the very least. Now, lastly, is there anybody that you'd like to thank, or anybody that you'd like to shout out? Perhaps your fiance?
My fiance, of course, is always one of my big supporters, and I mean, more than anything, you guys putting on a fantastic broadcast as always, and to everyone that actually made it to the track today. We had a shipping strike. Let's say that was it. In universe law. So got sent to Riverside already, maybe, or something else.
Oh, man. Well, thank you very much for joining us in the broadcast booth, Nicholas. Really appreciate you showing up and showing out for this championship. Congratulations on second place, and we'll talk to you very, very soon. I can only guarantee you that.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, guys, and have a good one.
You too, brother.
Absolutely great stuff. And now walking to the Southern Speed Factory, third place, Alston banned Birchfield. Well, I don't think anything can be banned here, because Alston, third place, most consistent driver. Did you expect to be sitting here on the final step of the podium after a race where drivers were back and forth for so long, and you were sitting in the middle of nowhere at one stage of the game?
To be honest, no, I really didn't. To be perfectly honest, I wasn't going to race here. I just didn't feel the car was sort of set up for it. I wasn't perfectly happy with it, and overall, I just wasn't feeling it. But I'm glad I did, definitely, because unfortunately the turnout was a little low. But overall, definitely. Sorry, I'm a bit out of breath. I'm just tired. But overall, definitely, I'm very happy to be where I'm at. I'm really surprised by it. I thought with qualifying, I definitely thought I'd have more of a fight with Martin for at least fourth place. I wasn't sure if I would ever be able to catch Mick or Nicholas or Bert. I definitely didn't once everything got settled, but I got a pretty good start, I think, and I tried my best to, make the most of it, but I unfortunately destroyed my tires fighting Nicholas for third, I believe it was, and just had a few uncharacteristic moments where Mick was able to catch me, and I ultimately decided to just lay back and hope for the best.
You drove your race and you made it work. First of the season to score points, bumping you up to 15th in the championship. What's the game plan looking forward for the rest of the year to really move the Southern Speed Factory, to move yourself up through the order? And after taking some of the, momentum you've built up here at Mosport.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame. It's taken almost 3/4 of the season for me to finally understand the car and how to actually use it. I haven't had the most success really anywhere with this car besides maybe the first race I had it at Zandvoort. But other than that, I would say I've had a lot of bad luck, and then just ultimately wasn't ever fast enough. This podium feels about where I should be. To be honest, definitely the Lotus I feel is the fastest car of all the cars. And it certainly could be doing more in someone else's hands, I think. But I'm definitely happy that I got the podium, and it's where I feel I should be. As for Riverside, I honestly don't know yet. I haven't practiced there. I haven't really put the Lotus anywhere there yet. It's probably not the best track for the Lotus, but I don't think it'll be any worse than Mosport, to be honest.
Well, if you can keep the consistency, you keep the pace, I'm sure we're going to be having a chat to you once again. Before I let you go to enjoy the celebrations and get some rest and cool down after some hard racing, anything you want to say to everyone out there in the virtual grandstands, to the drivers and the teams that you're racing against as well? The floor is yours.
I just want to say a big thank you to Nico for having this league and for running the series. I've been running with these guys for almost, I think, 4 years now. I've gotten very close with them, and we're all wonderful people. And I truly couldn't be racing with a better group. And I want to thank every single one of them for showing up and for being the best that they can be.
Absolutely wonderful stuff. Third place, Austin Birchfield of the Southern Speed Factory, going and rounding off the final step in the podium. And what a stellar race it has been, and also a hard-fought race. We saw the beginning stage of the race. It was nose to tail for a long time, and then towards the mid part of the race, it came down to endurance, stamina, keeping the focus in, and towards the end, it was about just focusing to get it across the line. I thoroughly enjoy the circuit, except for Moss Corner, but I enjoy the cars, and it's good to see, despite a smaller field, there was proper nose-to-tail action, side-by-side moments had both you and I holding our breath, waiting to see who comes out on top.
Truly was a fantastic event with plenty of overtaking opportunities. The battle for the tip of the spear, the battle for third and fourth, the finishes, the not so finishes. It was great from green to checkered flag for this event, brought to you by HSRC. If you're interested, check out HSRC to get yourself glued into one of these HRSC, and get yourself glued into one of these championships as well, and it'll be a great time had by all. And fill up this grid for the next championship season that's coming up here soon. Looking forward to the next event. Check us out tomorrow as well for the Formula B series also.
It's going to be a great one. It's going to be an exciting one, and a massive shout out to our the HRSC drivers, teams, and also admin, but also big thank you to our I would say our old faithful in terms of cameraman Christian Deploy and Sega for coming and joining in the commentary box, but it has been a stellar one here on the Genisus Extreme channel. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, the bell notification icon, not to miss any action in the world of sim racing, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow evening for plenty more of our Formula B action.